time. I don't know if it's going to work. Okay. Looks like it's going. Okay. Hello, my divine infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And I am doing something kind of different today. For those who are tuning in on the live stream, we're going to be going 3 hours. The first hour we have Faye Simple with us, and then we're bringing in Dave Emery and for the second hour and the third hour. So if you don't want to watch it that long, I'm doing this also because you can ask questions, and I'm going to be looking in the comments if you want to ask questions. But if you don't want to last that long, don't worry, because it's going to be a 3-part series all through August on the Voice America Empowerment Channel or your local podcast, or you can find it on my website, www.infinitehuman.com, and it'll be, the 3 parts. So tonight we're going to be talking about energies with Faye Simple, and then next week we'll be discussing biosyncing to the earth, and then the third week we're going to be kind of talking about chelonic science and the true hidden history of our planet. So just keep an eye out for the podcasts that are coming up, and we'll get started here in just a minute.
1 minute.
Okay. All right. And I just wrote up a short thing for you, Faye, but I think it's good. It's short and sweet, but very...
just like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Elizabeth, I'm going to go ahead and send the feed your way. All right, have a great show.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show with Elizabeth Monroy. Over the next hour, you'll learn how you can become part of the new consciousness renaissance by evolving yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, and socially to embrace your true divine infinite nature and become an infinite human and co-creator of the new infinite earth. Now, here is your host, Elizabeth Monroy.
Hello, my divine infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And I am so delighted that you've tuned in to this wonderful show that we're going to have. It is amazing. This is a 3-part series, and we're really focusing on energy. And as I said, I always get the downloads, from Infinite Source of what I'm supposed to talk about. And it was definitely energy this time. The world is gone crazy, in case you haven't noticed. And if you haven't noticed, good for you, because it's something, it's a distraction, and you really don't want to pay your attention to all the stuff that's going out there. And I've talked a lot about that in the earlier broadcasts, about, the whole social media now with the AI. You don't even know, you can't trust your eyes anymore. You don't know what you're hearing, but energy does not lie. And as I was getting this, theme that was coming to me, and getting that we really need to start focusing on energy and learning how to work with it, this amazing woman came into my field, my holographic template, and her name is Faye Simple, and she is amazing. I've been watching everything I can of her videos. She's from England, and of course, if anyone knows anything about ley lines, there's probably more ley line intersections in the UK than any other place on the planet, and so she knows a lot about that. She's a spiritual entrepreneur, psychic, wisdom holder of earth magic, nature lover, geomancer, dowser, which I'm so fascinated by, and a mother of 2, and perpetually curious seeker of knowledge and learning, which is great. Her gift is enabling women to work with their higher selves, energy, and spirit at the deepest level to co-create a reality that supports them in their success. And last week, if you didn't join in, it was probably the most hijacked video I've ever done, and the theme was that the women are going to give birth to the new earth. So empowering women seems to be, a highly controversial topic. So greetings, Faye. Welcome. So wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a joy to be here. I'm delighted to chat with you this evening. It's going to be great.
Great. Thank you so much. Now, I have a million questions that I've written down, and, I just love what you're doing. I love your work. So I think let's just start with like ley lines. I saw you talk about that. What are ley lines or dragon lines or key lines, nodes, dragon nodes? Could you just give us kind of get us started on what that is?
Yeah. I mean, we live on this beautiful planet Gaia, which is a living entity. And as in all living entities, she has an energy blueprint, just as we have an energy blueprint within our body of our aura, our chakra system, meridian lines, so does the earth. And ley lines or energy lines are part of the energetic blueprint of the earth. They're part of her energetic consciousness, her energetic systems. And they also match the sort of geometry of the earth. What makes the earth a sphere is a set of symmetrical patterns, and energy lines that we dowse across the landscape correspond to the geometry that makes the earth possible, but also to her consciousness. So it's a way of tapping in to really the spirit of the earth. And we have been dowsing these and working with these lines really all throughout history. Our ancient sacred sites are noted on them. Our seats of power are positioned where these lines cross, which are nodal points. So we've had this innate knowledge that there are special places in the landscape. And I think we all feel that now. We all know when we've gone somewhere that's really special. And by tapping into these energies, we can actually make our own lives better. We can make sure that the activities and the things that we do have a greater chance of coming to perfect fulfillment, of being prosperous or happy, and that our societies are more cohesive and caring. And we have sort of lost that connection. And I think that taps into what you were saying earlier on. The world is a crazy place right now. And I think that we are seeing this fracture between what society is becoming and our connection to the earth.
And so we influence and they influence us because it's consciousness. When you live on ley lines, you can either contribute positive or even pull up the negative if they've been kind of polluted, I would say, well, that's a whole nother story, but there's a bio kind of feed back and forth between where you live, the ley lines where you live. And can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah. You say it so well, by the way. I love the way you explained it.
We're in this like feedback loop with the earth. We influence the earth's energy and the earth's energy influences us. We're in a relationship with it. So we can concentrate on energy lays or ley lines, but every part of the earth, your home, everywhere you walk, has this feedback loop, which we pick up on through our pineal gland. And how we are feeling, our negative energy or our happiness gets carried down these energy lines. But therefore, we can also pick up on other atmospheres and moods and things. I mean, in the recent weeks, because I work with people working with energy in place, that we've all noticed there's really sort of dark, malevolent, almost evil energy coming into the energy grids. At the same time, they're expanding. There's huge shifts in the energy grids at the moment, but we're also experiencing the sort of distress within humankind and the earth's distress at our lack of relationship with her. So we're very much in a relationship with place, a relationship with all the forms of energy in the landscape and the relationship with those consciousnesses. And because of our sort of separation from them, and the way we have chosen to move society down the route that it's going, we are feeling that. We can sense that in the Earth's grid. So yeah, the energy lines carry all sorts of consciousness, human consciousness being one of them.
Well, I want to go to the pineal gland and how when you're in high energy places, it actually activates and raises your frequency. But first, and I'm not going to get into this a whole lot because that's really, David is really good at that, and he'll come on next week. We'll hear him on here. But in our hidden history, of course, and not so hidden, there has been a lot of, I call it polluting, or really like blood sacrifices that have been done in these very, very powerful places like Stonehenge, where I live here in Sicily. There's an island called Mosia where they would sacrifice their firstborn child to Baal, So this obviously lowers the frequency, and that might be what you were talking about. I feel like some of it's coming out now. It's almost like expressing like pus. Does that make sense to you?
There is a historical element, but there is also the current element. So that humans have a remarkable capacity to be incredibly creative, innovative, but we also have a capacity to be incredibly destructive. And at the moment, what we're seeing is that humans are disenfranchised from their own power. We look at power as something, power and authority as outside of ourselves. And often our first experience of power is power over us, control, manipulation of power. So we have a very dysfunctional relationship with our own power. And when we're not in our own power, we are more open to undue influences, whether that's historical, religion, or current now in the political climate and the ideology that's going on in the world. That is very much part of what's going on at the moment. So we can look at the past, because we've always done terrible things, and we probably always will. We've got two sides to us. We can choose to be light, or we can choose to be dark. So there's a lot of negativity that is both path, but is also present at the moment. And when we are subjected to that, if we're not steady in our own power, we're not contained, and we're not sure of our own boundaries, we are more likely to take that energy on. And then that leads more and more people to be dysfunctional and unable to cope and everything else. And then when we feel like that, we tend to be fearful and aggressive. So that's the energy that we put out there into the world as well. So I think our historical conception of sacrifice, we kind of have also, don't get me wrong, it was a terrible thing, but we also have to understand the mindset of the people who engaged in that. It's probably very different than the mindset of people today. So of course I wouldn't condone it, not in any stretch of the imagination. But I think a lot of the evil that we experience is actually perpetuated now as well. And the same as reincarnation, we can go back to past life trauma that we haven't resolved, but actually the problem is still present in our own life. And I always think about past things. It's like a past life was like riding a bike, and the life didn't work out, and we abandoned the bike. And then we come back on and we get on another bike, and we get another flat tire or something goes wrong and that life ends. And then we get back on this life, on this bike, and something will go wrong with this bike because it's the same lesson. Now, we don't actually need to go back to the first bike to fix the bike that we're on. We fix the puncture of the bike that we are on. So I'm very much focused on, we need to solve the problems now because we're here now.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, so that's
and I'm just going to do it real fast in kind of the philosophy and the way I would word it, and it's written in The Infinite Human. There is no time, so there are all these alternative identities that are still there. If you visit these places, you may have and I know I've had to clear up some stuff from from say these sacrifices and these experiences I had. But you're right, we're right in what we call the heroic the story, where we're bringing all these together, and it's right here and now in front of us, and we are the ones that are shifting it. So with that said, how can we better connect with our mother? How can we use and clear? I find personally, when I clear myself, I also clear the ley lines, and when the ley, so it's kind of a joint effort, because I feel one with my mother Earth. But how can we, I was listening to a tape where you're talking about how when you get in these, when all the crisscrossing come together, it actually helps you to raise your frequency, to activate your pineal. How can we start to tune into that, and use that and clear that?
That's what, as a geomancer, obviously, I mean, that's what we work with. We work with the energy of place, and these earth energies are incredibly powerful. So the earth, as we know, just a little bit of science, the earth has all these electromagnetic frequencies.
Yes.
There are the earth, there are electromagnetic frequencies, and we experience them because we exist on the surface of the earth. And our brain is highly attuned to these frequencies. But at certain places, the normal range of these frequencies peaks massively. So it's like turning up the volume from 1, all of a sudden we've increased the volume to 10. Now, what that does to our pineal gland registers those changes in the electromagnetic spectrum, and it changes the neurochemistry in our brain so that we produce neurochemistry that enables us to have altered states of consciousness. And these traditionally are our ancient sacred sites because they're located usually near geological fault lines. So the very fabric of the earth is one of the mechanisms through which we can achieve our higher states of consciousness. And then when we're in that state, that's when we can connect to something more than ourselves. What is my purpose? What am I here for? And we can take that information from visiting a sacred site, and then we action it in our daily life. And that is how we heal ourselves, and that is how we heal the planet, by saying, this was my sole purpose. This is what I came here to do. Am I embodying it? Yes, no. Could I embody it more? What are my soul values? How can I express them in the world? So the more we as individuals embody our true purpose, the healthier the society we have. And part of unlocking our true purpose involves having these higher states of consciousness. And the earth itself is one of the mechanisms through which we can do that, which I think is fascinating. So we were, have an incarnational experience on this wonderful planet. And she is one of the very mechanisms through which we can access our higher consciousness. I think that's the most, if that wasn't created by some kind of design, then how on earth does that happen? So, this is, none of this is by accident. And ancient man, of course, recognize these spiritual places. They don't have to have an ancient monument on them. They're just known by peoples that this is a special mountain, this is a special river valley. Whether we decided to build a sacred structure on it, is a separate thing. But these special places exist within the landscape, and that's how we can use them. We have sacred spaces to give us this insight and knowledge, and then we have our secular spaces where we live and work, where we take that knowledge and do something meaningful with it.
I love it. I love every word you say. It's just resonates so much with me. And now I noticed when you were talking about dowsing, it was fascinating. I watched you dowsing over a map and everything. And you talked about how some people saw straight lines and some people saw wavy lines. And then, of course, that's the electromagnetic in play. And, we've already talked earlier about how everything is originally, for those that know the Partike Particum, the original trifold of electromagnetic, masculine, feminine, is the creation. So could you talk just a little bit more about that? The ley lines being electromagnetic and curvy and straight.
There is an electromagnetic component to a lot of energy lines. There's also a sound component, but let's just deal with the electromagnetic lines. Cool. So anybody who knows anything about electromagneticity knows that you have a horizontal and a y-axis. So electricity will go on the I'm going to get it the wrong way now, but you know what I mean. Electricity is going to go on the vertical axis, and magnetism is going to go on the horizontal axis. So from above, one of them will look like a straight line, and one of them will look like a wavy line. And I think it depends on our body type, our personality, whether we're more in tune perhaps with the magnetism or more in tune with the electricity as to which way they dowse them. Because some dowsers will dowse energy lines straight across the landscape for miles. And some people say, well, that's the line of sight. But other dowsers will say, no, I actually dowse it as straight. And yet other dowsers, like Hamish Miller, for instance, will come along and they will dowse that serpentine line going all the way across the country or continents. So I think it's very much down to our individual sensitivity to these energies. And as someone who can see these energies, you know, with my normal vision, there are a huge array of energies that even dowsers and people don't talk about. We are surrounded by a plethora of energy of all different shapes and forms all the time. So we are in this kaleidoscopic fields of energy, and it's very individual what we pick up on and what we're sensitive to. So much like, you know, our immune system is sensitive to different things, so our sensitive to energy to different things. So because I feel something in one place, it doesn't mean that you are going to, but both are equally valid.
Well, I wanted to address this because it's huge for me. You know, of course, we're both masculine, feminine, electromagnetic, but I just feel like that there's something the feminine side of us. Okay, you know, the women have with Earth. You know, there's a certain job that we have, and the masculine electrical has a job too. But there's something, because we're more magnetic, and the Earth, you know, to me seems very magnetic in nature. I mean, of course, everything's electromagnetic. Does that make sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I think it's because Gaia, you know, is feminine.
Exactly.
You know, Gaia is the feminine principle, and women then will be more attuned because we have a predominant feminine energy. So we've got to look at the yin and yang single, haven't we? We've got yin and yang, but within each one is the egg of the other, the seed of the other, and it's like that. So women, we will be more in tune with that earth energy on a different way, and I think that's really interesting, because I belonged to a group what's called the geomancy group, which were geomancers from around the world who were quite expert, and it was, you know, invite only. And when we would all turn up, a group of men, a group of women, to bring our case studies, we all dowsed in very the men and women had a very different approach to geomancy. So for the men, it was all, let's climb the hill, let's work out where the stars are, what's the angle of declination, where are these lines, let's get a compass out. It was all very sort of straight lines and accurate, and had to be measured and quantified, where the women would go there and go, oh, this feels nice. So
yes,
kind of embodied our very different mentality, that women are more emotional and feeling, and men are more sort of solution, action taking, you know, define it. You know, we have to be able to define this kind of thing, where women were much more free and loose about it. We are, you know, very different and very complementary.
Yes,
we will feel things very differently, and I think that's a great thing. I think that's you know, how we work together is a wonderful thing.
It is. Now, what about England? It just seems to have more ley lines, at least mapped out, than most other places on the planet. Do you agree? Or
I think we just have a tradition here, because we had various, for whatever reason, whether it's because there were still more sacred sites visible within our landscape, whether it's because we're a small island, I don't know, but we just seem to have had quite a lot of dowsers who have been intent on working through. I mean, we had Alfred Watkins, of course, who wrote The Old Straight Track, and that led into a lot of research of various other people that came along afterwards that looked at, you know, the geometry of sites and their astronomical alignments, and that sort of led to this tradition of working with earth energy alignments that perhaps other countries didn't have. So we had this sort of quite a strong history of dowsing these things. So of course people started mapping England, because that's where they were, and some of it, you know, is you know, we've extended. You know, there are more maps available now for other areas, but you know, you can't map. There are ley lines everywhere of various sizes, varieties, and strengths. You know, people say, "Oh, why aren't there all maps?" It's like, well, who's going to go out and map them, and who's going to produce the maps? But there are, you know, they correspond to basically, as I said, the grid. The major lines, it is the mathematics, it's the geometry of how you create a sphere, and that is the earth grid, and those are the energy lines.
Well, you spoke earlier about, you know, of course it's electromagnetic, but also there's sound involved in this. And I spent several months in Malta this winter, And I went to a lot of the goddess temples, and I've talked a lot about this on the show. But it was very interesting because in these ancient limestone temples that hold frequency, that are made up of crystals, and you talk about that too, that the goddesses, literally the goddesses, would use, well, there's so much there, and I picked up on you talking about, first of all, they would use a lot of tones to maintain kind of the frequency and the balances, and they were all these, and I forget, there is actual, I'm sure you probably know an architectural term of the doorways, all those many doorways within the stones are piled up, and they're creating all these doorways. And when I went there, I just knew, because I like you read energy, I touch stones and I see what happened there, and so I knew they were portals right away. I knew there were portals, and they had alignments with the Pleiades and everything, so they were aligning, and it was fascinating because I heard you talk about that in one of your videos about, I guess the frequencies raised so much that they create, portals or doorways where people could, download, perhaps even, pass through these portals to other areas. So, can you expand on what you were?
Yeah. So anything like that sacred space, they're multi-dimensional portals. So when we use sound, and sound is an energy, and we use geometry at these sites, the culmination of the two, from what I've observed, I've been in many of them, it holds a stable frequency that enables the discrepancy between what is quite a small human consciousness in many respects. Well, I mean, our soul is vast and multidimensional.
Sure.
But nonetheless, we have to experience our consciousness in many respects partly through the physical container of our body and our brain, which on a galactic scale is pretty small. So when we have a stable frequency around us for our mind fields, it's quite gentle and quite fragile. So how do we communicate with the god of Mars? How do we communicate with Venus? Because that consciousness is going to be vast, and it would be like us sticking our fingers in a socket. We're quite likely to fuse ourselves out physically. So sacred space and these resonances hold a stable frequency that enable us to bridge that discrepancy between being human and these vast consciousnesses. So we can invite gods and goddesses into these spaces, and we can have meaningful dialogue with them. And I've done that on many occasions. So I've spoken to Venus at New Grange, and specific sites often have this alignment to specific spaces, celestial bodies. And it is a way of communicating with essentially the consciousnesses of these planets, which the Romans embodied as gods. The god of Zeus, the god of lightning, the goddess Venus, the god Mars. It's a way of communicating with other consciousnesses that perhaps we would have difficulty with because of the sort of limits that we have of human consciousness is vast, but nonetheless we have to experience it through our physical mind, and our body is one of the mechanisms that we have to negotiate. So
just popping up in my mind, I guess you have to be really careful about who you're inviting in, because where you're aligning to. Yeah, because I think there has been a lot of hijacking of energies over the hidden history of our planet. And speaking of hidden history, okay, we had Ian Parks on here, and he talked a whole lot about Tartarian technology. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not too familiar, I have to confess, but
you will love it. You will love it. You really have to get into it, because basically, it goes into our hidden history of that the Earth before it became Gaia. Actually, Tara was much larger, and hence Tartarian architecture and all these cathedrals that you see that they claim they're Catholic, and all these ancient, they were resonating chambers that were used when at the time when we understood the ley lines and how to work with them, and they're on these sites where the energies are acclimated, and the crosses are not crosses, they're actually antennas that pull from the ether and the electrical level that is higher up, and would dispense it through the domes. And I was in a rotundo in Malta. I mean, there's a lot of them all around the planet that you just feel the energy when you walk in. You feel really good. I'm in Catholic land here, so we have a lot of those cathedrals where you just feel great when you're in them, So, and I've been looking at the landscapes, because where I live, we have temples. We have the ancient kind of Ionic temples, and then we have some of those cathedrals. And the time thing, I'm not sure that the way they place time in traditional history is necessarily correct. So I was thinking that, I think I heard you say that these limestone temples weren't more primitive. They were actually more storage areas where they would store the energy, and then it could be run through the ley lines to structures, architectural structures that actually pulled in the electricity, stored it in a battery, and then dispersed it. So I don't know. Does that make any sense to you, or do I sound like I'm crazy?
No, it does make sense. It's the nature of sacred space, and it's also connected to the materials that we use to hold the energy in these spaces. Yeah. So there's quite a lot to it, but yeah, I'm happy to go into that in more depth. Yeah.
Yeah. And for example, on the pyramid, supposedly the missing capstone was a crystal. So it would have been like pulling in the energy and then storing it. And the limestone contains a lot of crystals, but it's more like a story. People think Stone Age, they used stone because they didn't have anything. They used these massive stones, and many of them believe they were, levitated, not because they can't explain. They had a technology that worked with the energy of our Mother Earth and the electrical energy that surrounds her, the whole morphogenetic field that we are just now starting to, I think many of us remember. So yeah, could you tell us what your take is on that?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at particular sacred sites, for instance, let's say pyramids, they hold and mounds. They hold what we would call piezoelectricity, which is electrical charge that the objects of a mass hold, but they draw it into the ground. So in many respects, things like man-made mounds and maze mountains and pyramids, those kind of things, they actually replicate a phenomenon that we find in the natural world, which is volcanoes. So when I look at volcanoes, they are gathering this huge amount of piezoelectricity, and from the top, they usually emit this large column of energy that rises up, comes up from the ground, rises up, and it has a donut, like a toroid of energy that pulses up it, which is what we get at the top of the Bosnian pyramids. So many of our smaller structures replicate that collection, I see it reverse, of energy that they're actually capturing from the ground. And those structures have a storage capacity facility that then means they can alter our physiology. They can make our crops grow better, and many, many things that it's held within that space. So it's like a battery for energy. And a lot of that, again, it's connected to fault lines, because these waves of energy come out of fault lines, and we can store this heightened piezoelectricity in a sacred structure when it's within the wave formation of the energy lines. So there is a very clever technology behind all this that we are starting to rediscover now, which is a wonderful thing.
Okay, we're going to take just a real short break, and we'll be back in just 2 minutes and talk more about how we can remember this technology and start to use it.
For more empowering words from Elizabeth Monroy and Dr. Peter Monroy, check out their latest book, The Infinite Human, an ascension guide for starseeds, twin souls, and awakening infinite humans. The co-creators of the new Infinite 5D Earth. You'll also find many spiritual books to help both children and adults in their ascension back to home, to infinite God Source. Isn't it time to be part of the new consciousness renaissance? If this resonates with you, please subscribe to our website at infinitehuman.com and become part of our growing Infinite Human family.
Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. Do you have a question or comment for Elizabeth or her guests? Please call us at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. You can text or email your questions and comments to infinitehumanproductions@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. We're with Faye Simple. We're talking about the ancient technologies that utilize the ley lines and the energy blueprint of our divine Mother Earth. And fascinating conversation. Faye's with us here. And I just would like to, I know you work with people and women. And one of the things that you just said that just kind of a light bulb went off is you said that nobody lives anywhere by accident. We are all in our places, for certain reasons. So, I think, and you talked really about soul missions, and then we're talking about kind of bringing back, tuning and learning about this. And I know you help women to learn about this. So could you talk a little bit about what you do? And especially, I think, starting small, like you're there for a reason. And then how do you start small, clean up your energy space, to make it the ultimate for your, life, for your work, for abundance and all that. Let's start there.
Yeah. So working with earth energy is really on a spectrum. So we're working with where we live, why we live here, and then we're expanding that later on into the wider landscape and looking at sacred space. But initially, we want to work with our homes, because that's where we live. That's where we live with our family. That's where we, go out from into the world. It's where we are at our most vulnerable. It's where we sit and think about our hopes and dreams. And the place, we don't live anywhere by accident. We have a tradition in the geomantic teachings, whether that's Eastern geomancy and Feng Shui or ancient Western geomancy, is that we don't live anywhere by accident. We have come to arrive to live at that place at that particular epoch in our life, because that place has the energy to help us go through this next phase of our learning. So if we think about our own lives, we've had, our childhood home, where our parents kept us closeted, and we had, hopefully, and we had this childhood, and then we left home and we go to our first home. And that might be, initially, it might be going to college, it might be student digs, and then we buy our own home, and we might move into that with a partner where we start our own family. And then we move to a bigger home as our family grow. And then eventually we'll move to a house where we retire. We might do that, obviously, in many different ways, in many different locations. But each place we live in has unique lessons and challenges for us that are going to help us at that stage of our growth. So unpicking those lessons and challenges that are hidden within the energy blueprint of our home can really help us to understand what we're there to learn and what this phase of our life is actually embodying. So that your own home has a unique energy blueprint. And again, it consists of the two energies we're talking about, masculine and feminine. And the masculine can be good and the feminine can be good, or the masculine energy can need a bit of help and the feminine can be good, or the feminine energy can need a bit of help and the masculine not so good. Or worst case scenario, both types of energy need some kind of work. And that creates what really are 4 energy house blueprints. And where the energy of both masculine and feminine energy is good, that's normally good for us. It's good for our internal abundance. So we feel happy, we feel confident, we can get on with life. It's good for our external abundance. We attract what we need, opportunities, resources, people. It all just seems to work out. When we have disrupted masculine energy but good feminine energy, it can often mean that we're quite happy. We're great. We love life, but we tend to live in a home that's doesn't have many financial resources. It's a bit rough around the edges. We struggle to make financial gains and career, but we're enjoying life, but we haven't really got all the abundance external that we want. Conversely, then, when we've got good masculine energy but poor feminine energy, you can have people that have all the trappings of an abundant life. They look on the outside like everything's great, but inside they're unhappy. They don't feel satisfied, and their family relationships are suffering. And then you can have homes where both energy isn't great and needs some healing work. And that's really when the wheels have fell off your wagon. You are miserable, you are poor, and life isn't going any way that you wanted to. And although those external influences have that effect, they are external. They are also very much a mirror to the energy that is disrupted within ourselves. So if we have an energy where the masculine energy is not bringing in the external abundance that we want, it's usually because our masculine energy is suppressed and we're not going out there and being action taking and making the external things happen. We're sat at home thinking about it all the time, but we're not taking any action. So they hold up a mirror. And that can also be expressed. It's kind of expressed in the landscape, the building, how it sits together, many things. And I've worked with many clients, and the examples of these are really, they're really quite stunning sometimes. Of you say to someone, but look where you live, and you've got no influence in the outside world, but your house has hardly got any windows. You can't see the outside world, you can't see what's coming, you're cocooned within yourself. So we can work with that energy blueprint, and we work with the energy itself. So we apply remedies to these energies, but that by unpicking that, it also means we have to go on this internal journey of where am I in my energy? Why have I come to live at this place at this time? What is it telling me? Okay, it's telling me that I've got, I'm not action taking enough, or it's telling me that I'm very out there and actioning in the world, but I'm not dealing with my own mental or emotional difficulties or problems or health. That's then how we can start to work with ourselves, and we use our home as a mechanism to do it. So I think it's a really, and we work with the spirit of our home because our home has its own consciousness. So yeah, we can work with the spirit of anything. So working with the spirit of your home, the spirit of place, the spirit of your business, whatever it may be, means that we can tap into this energetic blueprint for the perfect unfolding of your life, your home, your business at this time. So we have, a map essentially to work with to get us where we want to be.
So yes, well said. So you help people do that. You actually can go to sites and help people clear up the energy, or you do courses, and in helping people to change their energy, shift their energy.
I have various programs. So I have a self-study program where people can learn pendulum dowsing, because that's something they can learn very easily. So that enables them to start asking questions about the energy in your home. Because if you can't see it, how else are you going to find these things out? So pendulum dowsing is a way of tapping into our unconscious knowing, but giving us really clear answers, because we ask these carefully framed, concise questions. Don't get me wrong, I love oracle cards and all the rest of it, but there's times when we have to interpret that. And we may doubt our own interpretation. We're looking for a yes or no answer. And that's what dowsing gives us. And then I've got a course really focused solely on the home called Sanctuary, which is about really working on the energy of the home. And then I've got a wider course, which is really teaching people the ancient art of geomancy, which is looking at the home, their landscape, and creating sacred space through sacred structure. So reclaiming this ancient knowledge, so that we can create a supportive home and build sacred space so we can access our higher consciousness.
Will you just say your website again so we can hear it?
It's just me. It's just www.faysemple.com.
Okay, and that's FAYSEMPLE.com. Yeah, so you can Google it. But I watched you douse. I watched you douse with a nut bolt, a bolt. And I mean, it's going like this, And I mean, I have all kinds of pendulums here beside me. I even bought one that you put water that's weighted down, because she said, I like a heavy one. And I swear to, mine doesn't go like that. And plus, I'll douse, I'll have a question, right? And then I'll ask it, show me yes, show me, and it'll say, oh, yes. And then I'll say, uh-oh, are you sure? No. So is that just me, or is it, I mean, what am I doing wrong? I mean, as many times as I ask, I have a different answer, So.
And therein lies the problem. So dowsing is both a skill and an art. I mean, I started dowsing very young, and I have what we would call a very vigorous dowsing response, because I think it's probably because I'm quite psychic and I see energy. So I feel everything quite a lot. So I have quite a robust dowsing response. Yes, I often douse with a nut, a metal nut on a piece of cotton. I
saw your nut, and it was going like this. I mean, off the charts. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm very psychic too. So sometimes I feel like I'm silly asking it. It's like I should know, it's like, because I just get this knowing about things. But then I like second guess myself. And that's probably the problem, right? Because I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me make sure. And then I'm like, wait. pushing it or something, you know. That's the problem. Is that
Yeah,
what I just
there are a few things when it comes to dowsing. We have to be really clear on what our intention is for the questions that we're asking. We really have to ask concise, explicit, and unambiguous questions. So it's no good, for instance, when people look at food and ask a question like, "Is this good for me?" Well, define good. You know, who's to say? You know, we have to say, you know, would it benefit my health for me to eat more apples? You know, and then we can. That is a question that only has a yes or no answer. So the sort of can I, may I, should I are all very vague and actually hand over your power to somebody else. So I don't teach dowsing in that way. So we have to learn the art of question forming to get a yes or no answer. And we have to really ensure that our focus is on the question and not let our mind go, I wonder if it's going to be X, or I wonder if it's going to be no. Because as soon as we start doing that, we start influencing the response. And then we ask qualifying questions. So we get our yes or no answer. We create a series of questions to get where we want to be. And then to ensure that we're correct, we can ask qualifying questions, which are things along the lines of, have I misunderstood the information in any way? Yes or no. Am I missing any information in any way? Yes or no. And that enables us to stay on track. But it is all about our focus, our intention, and knowing ultimately that we are seeking the truth. Because only the truth will set us free. But we are very good at looking for a convenient answer that doesn't actually put us to any trouble.
Yeah,
So
I think that sounds so good. You know, I mean, it sounds like something I really need because, you know, I'll just ask like major questions like, should I buy this, you know, this house, or should I, you know, just, and then I'll have all these emotions, you know, like, well, what if I, you know, and you're right. It sounds like you can teach people how to break it down, baby steps, and then you learn about yourself. You learn how you react to things because it's really just you telling this instrument what to tell yourself.
I mean, the dowsing instrument it's just a tool. So when we ask a dowsing question, if we look at mind fields, which are a registered field of energy that our mind emits, when we think a question, our brain emits this field of energy that goes out there into the universe. Well, what quantum physics now tells us is when we send a question out, not a statement, but a question, a corresponding wave of energy comes back from the universe. Yes. But because it's energy, our brain picks it up. Our subconscious mind will know the essence of this energy, but it hasn't yet come into form. So what we have to do is we have to take the essence of this energy and translate it into an answer that our conscious verbal mind can understand. So that's why we have a yes or a no, or a yeah, no, but. We have different motions of the pendulum, a definite yes, a definite no, and then a kind of a yeah, but and a no, but when we're not quite there. So the movement of the pendulum really tells us whether it's an affirmative yes or a negative no from this energy. But it is down to intelligent questions for us to really pull from that energy what we're looking for, which is why we have to be so careful in what we're asking and follow an intentional thread.
Yeah, that helps me a lot because now I realize, because I just, you know, usually I'm in very high dimensions and I just have this inner knowingness about everything. Once in a while I hit a hiccup, you know, and when I get that hiccup, it's usually probably because I'm breaking, because I don't want to know, obviously. And then I get a little anxious, and then that's when I'll look to external things. So I'm like looking at my Benjamin, you know, and when you put on the brakes energetically, because you're saying, I don't know if I want to know the answer to this, and we don't realize that's what we're doing, probably, right?
Yeah, and then that breaks the flow. So rather than asking things like, you know, should I buy? I don't know, should I buy this?
Huge I was going to buy this huge like New Earth community agriculturismo, we call them, and I'm like, I don't know about this because things were coming up. Should I buy it? I was so nervous about it.
Yeah, should isn't a good terminology, because should is like, who's to say we should not? So you would be, is it in my best interest to buy this? X?
Yeah,
and then
that helps.
When would be when is it timely and appropriate for me to buy it?
That's true. Divine timing. Yes, I found that out.
Next month, the month after, and set then categories so that you can say, you know, is it my best interest to buy this? Yes. Okay, so when is it in my best interest to buy this thing? You know, and we can do it that way. So there's lots of different questioning we can do. So, you know, sometimes people do lump big questions together. They'll say things like, should I move and live with my sister? Well,
Yeah.
or should I move and live with my sister, in November? Well, it's like you've asked 3 questions. Is it
Am I going to die?
Yeah. It's like, is it in your best interest to move? Is it in your best interest to move in September? And is moving in November the right time? And you might get different answers to all 3 questions. So this is why it's really important to understand how to ask quality dowsing questions to get the answer that you're looking for.
Well, I think that's wonderful because, that's what this show's about. And the book I wrote is all about. It's always saying going back to infinite source within. Your power is within. And so, but I do think it really is helpful. I know for me, sometimes when we get so confused with the external world, and now they're just trying to confuse us, I think, with all the social media stuff and the politics, and it's just crazy. So I think the most powerful and important thing you can do is learn to tune in and how to read. Really, you're reading your own energy, and the energy, but you have to start developing a trust with that, and it takes time because we've been taught external, since we were born, nothing. You have to go to school and we'll teach you everything, because you don't know anything. Oh, I don't know anything. And if you do think you want something or you want to whatever, go to the bathroom, you have to raise your hand. I mean, everything you feel is wrong. So this is a way, what you're teaching is a way for people to take small steps to learning to reconnect this relationship with themselves and the energy around them.
Yeah. Because our soul, we decided to have an incarnational experience, this vast and multi-dimensional experience, which is probably having many simultaneous lives. As you said, there's no such thing as past, present, and future, which is the smorgasbord of everything. So, but I am only aware of being me. I know my soul is vast and multidimensional. I can try and gain insights, but ultimately I am only aware of being Faye. And with that comes limitations. It comes with a worldview that's based on my history, my family, my learned experiences, and all those kind of things. And inevitably, we do listen to our guts sometimes, and sometimes we misinterpret it and we make mistakes. So then that leads us to think, and external influences, other people telling us, oh, that's not right. So we can develop a distrust of our own instinct sometimes, and we can override it and say it leads ourselves down to disaster. And although we might know we've overwritten our gut, the primary link in our subconscious is gut equals disaster. We don't necessarily acknowledge the fact, or even if we do acknowledge the fact that we have overridden our gut, still the psychological link is gut equals disaster once we've made a terrible mistake. So, because that's just how our brain works. So I am quite, although I'm quite, scientific, spiritually, psychic, I also have this other half of my family, which is engineers and how things work. So for me, that's why dowsing is a really useful tool, because we can break it down and use it to access information about what is the best course of action for me to take to fulfill my soul's purpose. And we can use, the energy of place to help us tap into other consciousness, universal consciousness, or work with the Dave, or the spirit of things. So
I wanted to ask you about that too. We're running out of time, but can you just, you just really floored me away, because I do think we really, especially the women, with their intuitive emotions, have a tendency to tune in to the spirits of the trees, talk to the trees and Mother Earth and the mountains and the fairies. But then you said actually things like corporations or your businesses have spirits too. So, and that tuning in and co-creating, really, you're not like telling them what to do, but you're saying, what do you need, is kind of a give and take relationship. Am I right?
Yeah, very much so. So we're so used to, we can look at nature and go, oh, the spirit of a tree, the spirit of rock, but everything is created from energy. So when we have an idea, that might be, you and I are both entrepreneurs. We had an idea for a business. When we had that idea for a business, we didn't imagine it being an abject failure. We imagined it being a success. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. So within that conception of that energy, a thought is an energy. It has its own life form. So therefore, it has its own spirit. So your diva of your business has its own spirit or deva, and that spirit holds the energetic blueprint for the perfect unfolding of your business. But of course, that can be expended to capital, society-wide things. We have a concept of justice. We have a concept of law. We have a concept of wealth. We have a concept of sort of all the systems and structures that we use to create human society. They all have their own deva. So, UK, England, the spirit of Britannia is the spirit of our landmass, and then there's the goddess of justice, if you like, because we have this concept of justice. So it has this energy blueprint.
So I was meditating on that, and actually we could kind of circumvent all the BS that's going around in the politics and the world in the parallel, and go, vertically up to the spirit, the essence of it, and begin to try to embody the divine blueprint of what the highest essence of that thing is supposed to be, whether it's and that's, I think, okay, we're going to wind this up real fast, but I'm going to try to tie this in, because last week we talked about the women giving birth to the new earth. And again, we're electromagnetic and we need both, obviously, so we need to are both the masculine and the feminine. And if you've heard me, I've defined it, the goddesses, the ancient goddesses, as not beautiful women, but women who held that perfect balance of electromagnetic, knew when to use what. And so what I see happening is that's how to begin to tune into energy, okay, rather than what the external world, the inner energy, not only of yourself, so you can learn to trust yourself, but the deva spirits of what we want to have happen, the new earth, how we want it to be in the blueprint, us, our divine blueprint, the businesses or the soul missions that we're embodying. Okay, you agree with that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. We live in what I call many nested energy ecologies. So it's my energy, my family, my business, my town, my community. They're all in relationship together, and they all have deva. They all have spirit. So we can work with these energies, and they will help us grow as people, because we will face challenges and lessons, and they encourage us to increase our capacity to bring these things into being. And that necessitates us being who we came here to be, because otherwise we will not have the capacity to bring these things into being. So it supports life, humanity, society, everything else, and it enables us simultaneously to be the best version of ourselves. It's a win-win.
I love it. Win-win. That's the future, I think, with the divine feminine, the eternal mother kind of coming into essence, because it's all about win-win, not competitive. And thank you so much. I just resonate so much with what you say. Now, can you just tell us again, how we get in touch with you, some of the things you do, so we won't, because I know a lot of people will resonate with this and want to be able to reach out to you.
Yeah, so if you just Google Faye Semple, FAYSEMPLE, you'll find my website. You can also find me on Facebook, of course, and you can find out more about dowsing, working with the energy of your home, or intensive geomancy to reclaim our lost knowledge of the landscape and what all the marvelous things we can do with it to bring our lives to fulfillment and give value to the world.
Okay, thank you so much. And she's coming back next week with David Emery, and we're going to be talking about this in a little bit more detail and focusing more on the ascension aspect and what an amazing time we live in. So thank you for tuning in so much, you precious souls. I really appreciate you so much. And we'll see you next week. Ciao in the now.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. We hope today's episode has inspired you to join the new consciousness renaissance and be the change by reclaiming your true divine infinite nature within and becoming an infinite human and a co-creator of the new infinite earth. Tune in next week for another empowering episode. Until then, have an infinite week.
All right, great job. Good show. We're clear.
Okay, thank you, man. Bye.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay. I'm having some trouble with this. David, I'm having trouble adding you. This is, I tell you. Hang on. I just don't, it's not you, it's me. I was having some glitches with this. Gosh, you guys. I was trying to get into the private chat too, and I couldn't. Let me see. Daggone. Ah, there we go.
Oh.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here and I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. I should have had Matt check your audio, but it sounds pretty good. Okay, guys. And you guys both grew up in Ireland, by the way. This is Faye, David, Faye. You guys.
Hey,
Nice to see you too.
I've been listening to your talk, the last part of it there. It was very, very empowering, very interesting. Thank you.
Good.
So this is going to be interesting because I want to, I'll just, and then we'll start, but we're just going to kind of bring in some of the ascension energies in the Kalanic science and then, bring it into grounding it into what you've been talking about, and the ancient technologies coming back online and just see where it goes. We'll just have because you're both fascinating people. So, all right, now this is next week. A week is fast. A whole week. and I'll take a short commercial break so they can edit that in. Okay. And if you're live streaming, it's next week. Okay. So, all right, here we go. And hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome. I'm so delighted to have you here. And we have Faye Simple back. And this week with David Emery. Again, you are familiar with him. He's a staple part of our Infinite Human Talk show. And we're going to talk about how these amazing time we live in and how these ascension energies are blending, with the ley lines, what we talked about last week, the whole ley lines and the David spirits and the ancient sites, and how to best utilize them or how to best biosync with them. So let me just introduce David for a minute since, Faye, she was here last week. So, she's from England too. And she is a spiritual entrepreneur, psychic, wisdom holder of earth magic, nature lover, geomancer, dowser, mother of two, and a perpetual curious seeker of knowledge and learning. Her gifts are enabling women to work with their higher selves, their energy and the spirit at the deepest level to co-create a reality that supports them in their success. And welcome back, Faye.
Thank you very much.
And David Emery is back again, and he's here to discuss colonic science. He's quite a knowledgeable person in that, so we are all tapping into and utilizing his knowledge of that and the creation mechanics of our multiverse and how the Crystal River failsafe host and the Nomi seed are restoring our time matrix. David was born in Ireland and at 7 moved to England a little bit after World War II. At the age of 70, moved to England, and he has written a number of children's books. And I'm waiting for your book. I can't wait. Beyond Biblical. He calls it the history we were never told about. So he's quite knowledgeable about our ancient, beyond ancient history. So welcome. Gosh, I'm not even sure where to start. I'm just gonna say, let me see. Well, David, do you mind? You're kind of, you're all over the place now, but would you mind talking about the amazing, powerful time in which we have now entered and what that means energetically to all of us in terms of raising our frequency and in terms of our Mother Earth, raising your frequency? Could you just explain that in 5 seconds? No, just kidding. 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, look, it's okay. I'm often asked to talk, to explain everything I know within the 5 minutes. There is a time. No, look, yeah, we are in extraordinary times. Some people call them the end game times, etc. And it is to do with the expansion of our frequencies, which are occurring now properly for the first time for 210,000 years, in fact. And that in itself is just one small part of an extraordinarily epic tale, which we've all been a part of. We really have. And with regard to what's happening now, well, I let me say that 25 years ago or 30 years ago, if you'd said the word frequency to me, I would have thought that you were an electrician. And if you'd said DNA to me, I would have thought that you were some kind of a zoologist. My knowledge of both was less than significant. And I think I was the same as everybody else. But have you noticed that, and this is an example of how our frequency, our consciousness frequency, has expanded. In the last 30 years, everybody can talk about frequency, and everybody is talking about DNA. Why they even mention it in sports science, they say, you know, being assertive in your on the tennis court is in your DNA. Well, people never said that 30 years ago. Now we're talking about such things, and the reason? It's because, not the scientists, it's because of our expansion of consciousness. So we are becoming aware of so many more things. And just listening to last week's production by Faye there about the energies and the spirit movements that are within the earth, they also travel through us because we are aspects of the morphogenetic field of earth. And so all of these frequencies and expansions which are happening on earth really quite so pivotal, are affecting all of us worldwide, and also, of course, the life field that includes plants and animals, as Faye so accurately said. So we're all on the heroic pathway into the destiny of joy. And if that sounds a little bit over the top, a bit too love and light for you, well, it is definitely true. Even if perhaps some people may not be able to see it quite yet. Nevertheless, the general trend of our movement, the direction of our travel in terms of consciousness is into the higher realms.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautifully put. So, and last week Faye was talking about how there are certain areas on the planet, you know, perhaps intersections of ley lines, or that hold higher frequencies. A lot of these sacred sites, and they even have architectural structures on them that augment that. So, and that activates our pineal, and it would also activate our DNA and raise our frequencies. Faye, you want to just expand on what you were saying about that a little bit?
Yeah, so just a quick recap. Yeah, there is when we're looking at Earth energy, there are because of the Earth's makeup and fault lines and various things, there are many sites, places around the world that we consider to be sacred. The nature of that energy is such that, as I say, alters when we are in those sites. It triggers the difference in neurochemistry in our brain because our pineal gland is attuned to the electromagnetic forces of place. And then it's that change in neurochemistry that enables us to have altered states of consciousness. So in zones where electromagnetic frequencies are incredibly raised, that makes the brain produce a chemical called pinolene. Pinolene links to our melatonin, and the two together form a chemical called DMT. Now, that is usually our dream chemical. It's the chemical we take when we take things like ayahuasca, which is a plant-based form of DMT. But our brain produces an animal form of DMT every night. It's what makes us dream. But it's also the chemical we can induce at sacred sites. And that then chemical enables us to have altered states of consciousness, or out-of-body experiences, or astrally travel down ley lines, or communicate with non-human beings. It's just a mechanism for opening a doorway into the vast and multi-dimensional sort of quantum realms, if you like, so we can experience other things. And that's what sacred sites are all about. It's a way of us stepping out of normal bounds of consciousness and having direct communication with something more than ourselves, so that we can find meaning and find purpose. And then we can take that information, that experience, into our daily lives and do something purposeful with it, so that we're not wandering around going, what am I here for? And how can I add value to the world? And wasting, not being proactive in our own development and helping other people to do the same.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Yeah. Okay. So what I would like to go with this for a little bit and then get more into embodying, like, what can we do? How can we biosync? What can we as individuals do? But before we get into that, David, would you mind talking a little bit about the hidden history and the fact how many of these energetic centers and these ley lines, that were so powerful at one time when, the Christic, angelic humans were roamed the earth, have been, I always call it almost like a Rubik cube, kind of been disconnected. Bits and pieces have been taken out of these sacred sites, and the angles where the frequencies run through have been, taken, off kilter, so they don't align properly. And we talked last week a little bit about how there's been a lot of blood sacrifices on these ley lines to lower the frequency. How that has, taken us offline, the power, and how we're now coming back online with the whole fail safe. Would you mind?
Well, first of all, let me say I totally endorse and agree with what Faye said there, and of course, you taught me some things that I didn't know about those elements that we can have passing through our bloodstream. I didn't know that, so that was really fascinating. So thank you for that.
Fascinating.
And it expands my awareness, which is what it's really all about, so that we become more complete in our inner standing of who we are and what our purpose is, our mission, which I think you touched on yourself.
I wanted to get you two together because I just knew you would sync. It'd be a fascinating conversation. Two brilliant minds. Okay, I won't interrupt.
Well, with regard to the earth and to ourselves, being inextricably bound to each other, our beautiful Earth Mother, and we are her loving Earth children. What you've been saying is so right on point. And with regard to the history, the thing is that, and what people rarely seem to know but are beginning to realize now, is that throughout a colossal amount of what we would call time in our so-called history here, we have been effectively the victims, the unknowing victims, the sleeping victims of many technological marvels which have affected the earth, and this is over a long period of time. So how would it affect the earth? Well, if the earth is a living being, and it is, which 50 years ago, if you told me that, I wouldn't have believed you. But if the earth is a living being, and of course Faye knows absolutely all the details of the fact that she is, and we are living beings, and we are connected through her morphogenetic field through ours, then we are absolutely inextricably bound to her and with her and in her. So in order to control the frequency grids of Earth, but that's the energetic sequences of her own life, and therefore ours and every other life field, in order to control those energetic frequencies of Earth, certain beings made a decision to learn and to figure out how to control those frequency generations. And what they discovered, of course, is what Faye has been talking about: ley lines, axiotonal lines, axia-C-tonal lines, and inner Earth lines, all the things that connect the insides, the inner workings of our own Earth. Now, you may say, well, our own Earth is only just a ball of magma. That's all it is just an iron core, and it's all burning hot, and that's it. But in fact, it's not. Because you see, we've got veins and capillaries and arteries, and so too has the Earth. And they are energy rivulets. They are conduits for the energetic flows of eternal source, which pass through the universe and into every planet and into every being. And that is the key to eternal life for all of us. So with our planetary frequencies being having the eternal flows flowing through the Earth's grids, the frequency grids, it passes through ley lines, which are horizontal, and axiotonal lines, which are vertical, and inner Earth lines, which are diagonal. And the inner Earth is particularly important. The inner Earth is where all our inner workings, the temples, etc., the crystal pylon energetic spheres that actually run the energy through all of these rivulets and collect the energy from the eternal source fields. These are very important. And the beings who wanted to create control over our earth realm knew that they had to access the inner earth. And that was very difficult because it was secretly sealed and controlled by a natural code.
And what about the stargates? The stargates, the Holy Grail, the stargates.
Oh, the stargates. Well, the stargates, thank you for reminding me, the stargates are, of course, portals, but there are also Q sites, which are inner earth portals, which allow all of this energy to pass through. So what the beings who wanted to control Earth decided that they would do is that they would cause inflection points, they'd cause interruptions in the energetic sequences, and for example, and they would place certain areas of certain cities and buildings, etc., on certain of these particular lines. For example, the Q line, the inner Earth diagonal, which runs from Tara, the Hill of Tara, through Island in Ireland, and through the Vale of Pusey, which is Stargate 11, and then through Paris. And of course, in Paris, there are lots of very low frequency pulse grids. And then through, believe it or not, the Vatican, and then through the Pyramid of Giza. That whole line runs straight all the way through, and it is an inner Earth ley line because it's a diagonal one. So why are all those different places featured on there? Because those are access points for the energy of the inner Earth. And so too are, of course, all the Q sites, which are inside Earth. And then, of course, as Elizabeth said, the stargates, which there are 12 stargates, and one of them is Stargate 12, which is in Montségur in southern France. All of these are linked. For example, Montségur is linked with the Michael Mary turnstile matrix, which is a very low frequency matrix. And the center of that is Nebraska. So those ley lines are connected. Why would that be? That would be to reduce the power outputs of all the stargates and all the Q sites. And why would they do that? That's to lower the general frequency of the whole planet. And in lowering the general frequency of the whole planet, guess what happens? They lower the frequency of the whole life field, including the most important carriers of frequency. And who are the most important carriers of frequency? You and I. We are, the angelic human genome carries that encrypted frequency alongside Earth. So if they could manage to distort all the frequency factors on all the ley lines and the axiatonal lines and the diagonal lines, they could shift the frequencies of Earth over a long period of time, which they did, and thereby control our own inner awareness of self. That's our perceptual abilities. That's why they affected the pineal and all the things that Faye's been talking about, which are so vital to us. They have been affected over a long period of time, as I say, 200,000 years and more. These energies have been affected.
Wow. That's amazing. Gosh, do you have any comments about that, Faye? You looked like you were like...
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, I don't think we have a subdued awareness of energy. We have a subdued consciousness in many respects, and you can see that in people's energy, that people do not have access to a huge part of their energetic field, and this door has been closed for us, and we are seeing the metamorphosis really of the humankind now. I think as we're moving into a new stage of evolution where we were going to reclaim this consciousness back, and I think that it's this shifting point, and I think it's that conflict in many respects that we're seeing sort of playing out in the world right now. We are being called to step into our power, and yet there is a very controlling dynamic that's trying to control people, and more as the more we are drawn to step into our power and autonomy, the more the controlling mechanisms will try and stop us doing that. And, you know, how long that will take, I don't know. What will be the results of that in society? You know, how difficult is that going to get? I don't know. But it is a phase that we are at. You know, we are here. We have arrived at it, and we have to do our best individually to navigate our way through this difficulty. But the earth is always there to support us. We have these places on the earth we can go to. We have the earth tune into as kind of like a guiding light, a guiding principle. And the more we can utilize these sites to unlock these doorways in our brains, as I was told when I was a little kid, don't shut those doors. That the more people who can open those doors and see this energy and see things differently, then the better chance we have of navigating our way into a much more harmonious relationship with ourselves, with the earth, with the cosmos, and with our own power. Because I spoke about this last week. We have this fractured relationship with our own individual power. We refer to outside authority and all those kind of things. Actually, you know, it's because we have become disenfranchised from our own power, and we have to reclaim that back. But it's scary. You know, it's scary for people. It's scary for people to go, you know, to take absolute responsibility for themselves and their actions. And it's scary for people to think, God, I might start having experiences or seeing things. And for, you know, for those of us who are more, you know, want to do that, that's great. But for a lot of people who aren't awake, that is going to be quite a challenging experience for them. But I think we are at this next stage of evolution. So, but I know when I was a child and had visits from beings and things that I could always see energy and go out of body and put myself actually in other people's minds. These beings that were with me as a child were very much don't let those doors close. You have a choice. And I made a concerted effort not to allow them to be closed during schooling and all sorts of things. They gave me practices to keep these doors open, so I kept them open. So, and I think that's what other people are going to be encouraged to do, is to reopen those doors. Some people will manage it, and some people won't quite so easily. But it's both an energetic block and a physiological one. And I think I heard Pam Gregory, the astrologer, talk about this, that we are in this next stage of something like brain evolution, where physiologically we're going to change. And I think that's part of it. I think that's part of us reopening these doors and claiming back sort of this lost light power source. You know, we are incredibly powerful, and we literally, you know, if our power was the grains of sand on a beach, we've probably got one grain in the palm of our hand at the moment. And I think these are opening doors that say, you know, come and get your hands full of sand and go for it, you know, and create a new reality. But inevitably, you know, there will be forces at play that do not want us to do that. So,
well, if I can just interpose there, I was just thinking there, just to give you a very small example. There are millions of them, but like we're both on the same side here, Faye, with regard to our own ineffable powers, which are connected with the whole universe. In fact, we are the universe.
We are the universe, yeah.
And we've just forgotten it, but it's so easy to forget when certain things have happened over time, out of mind to you. For example, let's look at the Olympics, because it's topical. Now, why do all of these young people, well, they don't have to, it doesn't matter about the age, of course, but why do all these people wish to take part in the Olympics and have so much fun and are so engaged in it and so focused on it? It's the natural process of angelics to enjoy, to experience things like that, to extend themselves, to test themselves, and to demonstrate to all who wish to watch what they can do. And that's the essential joy of action and movement that angelics feel. But have you noticed, and I know you have, more and more people are, have you noticed that in fact that particular way of angelic living and wishing to be and to create has been hijacked by those people who run the whole show through their money, through their sponsorship, through their media? And you only have to look at the presentation displays, you know, the opening ceremonies, not just this one that happened, but the one in 2012. And this just shows you who really has been trying desperately to corral and take over the angelic energies for their own purposes. And of course, it's very difficult to see it when when you're presented with all the beauty and the joy and the excitement of everything, you forget who's really trying to muscle in on this particular energy. So you're talking about energies, Faye, the natural energies we have within us to expand in joy and love and expression, which is what it's all about. And yet, have you noticed how very cleverly, diabolically, covertly, all of these energies have been held in track so that they can be used against us?
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. This has happened not just with the Olympics, it happens with everything that is major and that gets us to focus our attention. So when you're talking there, as you were dynamically, about how we are expanding our consciousness and beginning to realize the powers we have, you're so absolutely right. And it's wonderful to watch. And when I think of you doing your dowsing, and I know nothing about dowsing, so you must forgive me, but when I imagine you doing your dowsing, I suspect you connect with articles of nature like hazel twigs and things like that, or something like that. That's what it used to be in the old days. And
She uses a nut bolt. She makes me so nothing fancy. She's just like, oh, goodness, can make this thing spin. Okay, sorry.
But what's happening is you're making a direct connection with Earth through that connector, and it's just wonderful how you can manage to translate and transmit and transmute the energy of the Earth in through your energetic fields, and get images and pictures and words and information and data. I think it's just astonishing, and I think that's what's really happening with more and more people, like you're saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we are. I think collectively people are waking up, and I think certain things, you know, we have kind of a double life, don't we? In many respects, we have a spiritual life that many people are waking up to, but then we have kind of this non-awake life, which many people exist in that are not spiritually aware. But I think even they, you know, with instances like, let's not dwell on it, but this Olympics opening ceremony and things like woke ideology and things that are really clamping down on not allowing human endeavor and human exploration, human expansion. And it wants, you know, we're all the same. We are as a human species, but obviously not. We all have our own aptitudes. We all have our own skill set. And as a species, you know, we are, like you say, divine beings, but we are nonetheless embodied in a human experience, in a human body. We are sexually dimorphic to reproduce. There are many things that are truths. And for us to fully embody this spiritual and physical experience, we have to honor both. And we have to be encouraged to, you know, physically excel, mentally excel. And that will mean there will be difference in the level of achievement that different people can have, because we are all different. And what all this sort of clamping down of our thoughts, it's restrictive. It's, you know, it's you will, as the, you know, agenda says, you will own nothing and you will be happy, and you are all the same, and you will not travel, and you will eat bugs, and you will, and it's like these absolute control mechanisms that are actually the antithesis of what it is to be human. And even if people are not spiritually aware, on subconscious level, they are feeling that, and there is that voice inside them that just says, what's going on? Things aren't right. They might not be able to articulate why or what's happening, but their soul knows this isn't right. And it's that we are seeing emerging, and it's that's going to lead sort of to societal unrest and political upheaval, because spiritual beings though we may be, we have to live in functioning societies, and that involves systems and structures of governance and law and order and whatever, for us to be able to live together harmoniously. And while these, you know, with control mechanisms increasingly trying to squash people, you're trying to squash a large inflated balloon between two hands. Now it's going to ooze out between all your fingers, or it's going to go pop. And the more control we have, you know, it is in danger of going popping. I hope that it won't, obviously, because we don't want society to collapse. But the more awake we are to these things, the more we're able to navigate them in a way that doesn't mean we're provoked into violence, that doesn't mean that we do these things. It means that we need to be able to have honest discourse about what is occurring in our day-to-day lives and how that is that forms the bigger picture of this spiritual development of human beings as bigger as beings of light. So there's a lot of work to do. And I think there is an onus on all of us who are awake to speak about these things. And to people who are spiritually awake, of course, we can talk about all the woo and all the what's it and everything else. And to people who aren't spiritually awake, we can at least talk to them about, do you think it's a good idea that we've got this in politics? Or do you think this is a good idea to, have solar powered, solar panels all over working farmland, when actually the climate crisis is probably, a bit of a scam, and we need to be able to have these conversations with people. But the control mechanisms, don't want us to have those conversations. They don't want us to be united. They want us to turn on each other because it's in their interests that we do so. So it really is I feel that we're one of these, although human beings and life will go on, I think we're kind of at we are at a big crux moment, I think. We are at this sort of pivotal point. I don't mean it's going to be over in a week or a month, but we are, in terms of human evolution, we have come into this funnel. And, we've got to navigate. The only way forward is through it. The more
with that, I'm going to stop you for a minute because we're going to take a short break. I'm going to be right back. And I want to start shifting to the solution. I feel like there's this huge wave of frequency and energy that's about to come in. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions I've just wanted to ask you so much, think about it over our break, is how frequency changes us, our us physically, and our genetics, accretion of genetics, and like you spoke earlier, our pineal and all in our physical bodies and our consciousness, and then how we can support that with our Mother Earth. Okay, so we're just gonna take a short break and we'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show. I'm with Faye Semple and David Emery. We're having a fascinating conversation. They are both such, not only, I wouldn't say intellectuals, but they're such multidimensional beings. I enjoy so much. I'm going to ask a selfish question here. I want to hear you guys say your thoughts on how these incoming frequencies, and I think we're about to get such a dump. We are getting them from the center of our Earth, from the photonic belt, through our sun. I mean, it's just coming, and we're in that veil of consciousness that has been, I can't. And that has kept us, quarantined from the higher multidimensional aspects of ourselves. Non posso parlare adesso, scusa. Sorry, Italy came in here. Italy is coming in. So how is that going to affect us? If whoever wants to, go ahead. Just that's the question on the floor.
Okay, look, let me jump in then. And I loved the way you spoke Italian there. Gosh, I'm so envious.
I live in Italy, so yeah, I'm in Italy world all the time, guys.
So that was awesome. Okay,
this is the only time I get the chance to speak English.
Oh, right.
My talk show.
But you're not going to swear at us in Italian, are you? Because we wouldn't know.
Porca mondo, porca Dio. No, I'm not saying that. That was really bad. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll kick off then, and Faye can grab me if I go in the wrong direction. But with regard to the expansion of frequencies, we're in the lower domain, the lower domain of the lower domains. And that is the first three dimensions, 1, 2, and 3. We've got another aspect of ourselves and Earth in 4, 5, and 6. That's the next universe. And the next one is 7, 8, and 9, and so on. And so it goes. And so what's the difference between those frequencies in those higher universes and our frequencies? Well, the difference is in oscillation and vibration. Oscillation and vibration are the movement of particles in electric fashion and the movement of particles in magnetic fashion, and they move in different ways and they operate in different particle facilities. So the situation is down here we have lower frequency, and we therefore have very low density. So our particles are slower moving. They stick together more. That's why we get very heavy, dense metals, etc. And we're in a carbon-based crystal universe here. So what's the difference when we start accelerating our frequency through expansion of consciousness? And like Elizabeth said, all these amazing energetic flows that are coming through the universe and tracking through the Earth's grids and therefore through every grid of ourselves. What happens then? Well, what happens, and has always been meant to happen, it's a natural facility, and that is that we accelerate our frequencies of oscillation and vibration. And what that does is it actually makes us less dense. So if we increase our frequency, the density of our particle bodies will become less. So we become less dense, and that means we become carbon silica. And as that oscillation and vibration increases through expansion of consciousness, through being able to accept all these extra energies from the central sun, etc., then we become progressively more and more less dense, and so we move into silica, and eventually we become plasma light, and then we become gaseous light, and then we become primal sound. Now, of course, this might well sound absolutely and unbelievable to you.
Well, let me just stop you for a second, because I was watching Faye and she was talking about Faye sees energy. Okay. That's her connection. And she doesn't really know about colonic science, but you know, colonic science is about, we've been working with our plasma bodies a lot and the incoming rainbow plasma frequencies. And I was listening to you, Faye, describe that you could see, and I won't, if you could say it, about how you would see these waves of rainbow plasma energy affecting the grids of our planet. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about sort of working from an earth energy perspective. Many people are familiar with things like, ley lines, energy lines, whatever you want to call them. But we tend to work, what I've noticed over a long period of time is that people tend to work on quite a human-centric scale. So they work with energy lines and nodal points that we can interact with as a human physical being. It's in a particular scale. But there are huge energies that we don't really dowse simply because they're just too big. But there are huge plasma coils that come out of the earth. They coil up in like a big arc and they arc down again. And you'll have one plasma coil, another one, and they come up in like this rainbow of coils. So they arrive up, they get higher, and they dissipate in. So if you look at like stone carvings on New Grange, you've got all these arced loops surrounded by another rainbow of arced loops. What I believe they're the depictions of the plasma coils that come across the sky. Now, of course, the base of these coils is enormous. If you're on the edge of one, it would be as far as the eye can see in front of you. And they arc up and they take this energy up into the magnetosphere. And when we're in them, when we're on the edge of those, that has a massive effect on the energy of our cellular structure. So for the moment that these plasma coils burst out, we are different when we are immersed in it. And you can see that in both the auric field and the energy field around the cells. As you say, the oscillation increases. And I think these plasma coils are going to increase as the planet goes into this next phase of development. I think, once again, I come back to it, the Earth will be one of the mechanisms through which we are able to physiologically change as the Earth is moving into a new dimension. Then we will be taken along with her. And for some people, that change will be easier than others. So
Amazing. I just want to say that's amazing because, you've just said what has been told in great detail with the creation mechanics and colonic science from experiencing from your perspective, and then some people will talk about the mechanics and the charts and the graphs and the geometric patterns, and et cetera, but we've been told this for so long. And I just want to say this is great news because, and of course, my talk show is based on the infinite human, and the first 21 chapters is about everything of how fallen it is, the history, and how our ley lines have been polluted, and we've been disconnected, and the governments and the institutions and everything, is crap. Basically, it's all crap.
Yeah. It's not good.
but the last chapter, which is what we're at now, and why I want to dedicate it, is how we can biosync, how we can, begin to not even harness, because that's kind of like a 3D concept, because we don't, it's our mother, how we can assimilate and give back and ease our way. Because you said some people are going to have a hard time, and there will be some that won't even budge. They'll be so into the AI world that they'll probably not going to grab hold of the ascension opportunity our Mother Earth is offering and be siphoned off, because they just won't be able to attain that frequency. So what can we tell our viewing audiences, great minds that you are, what advice can we give to them to ease their way into, disconnecting from all that external babble that's going on in the media and everything, and attune more to the ascending frequencies that are all around us and coming from our Mother Earth? What would you say to them?
Who wants to go
Anyone?
first?
Go for it, Faye. Go for it.
Who wants to solve the Earth problems in 5 minutes? Now.
Well, I think we're all doing it in our own way, but you.
Just pour yourself a nice glass of Chianti and hope for the best. No, I think, again, I will always come back to it. Tuning into the Earth frequencies and nature, because we are nature.
Yes.
Where there are a lot of distraction that is created by human society. Brilliant. I said we need systems and structures for us to function as a society, so we all get along, we don't murder each other, and we have the capacity to grow and evolve. But they're also distractions. They're really useful for us to enable to live in a safe, secure societies, and long may they continue. But they have become sort of more restrictive as time has gone on. As a sort of, like I said, quite sort of malevolent ideology has crept in that's trying to encourage us to be as small and as minute and, as inhuman as possible. So the downside is that has happened. So we have to increase our capacity to be these energies. And that really, it comes down to increasing our capacity to be ourselves. So I said, our soul is vast and multidimensional and can touch every single frequency and every single energy and every single consciousness in the universe, anytime, anywhen, anywhere. It doesn't matter. What we have to do is increase our capacity within the sort of characteristics of my personhood. So my physiology, but who I am as a person, we have to increase our capacity to bring that into being in our own lives. And that involves doing the inner work of who am I, what are my soul values, what did I come here to do, but also very much utilizing the Earth as a mechanism to do that. Because although in many respects, some of our frequencies are definitely dampened down, we have to remember that the Earth likewise has the ability to tap into any energy, anywhere, anywhen from the universe, because it's consciousness. So although some mechanisms, if you think about what's been done to the Earth grid, it's a bit like the COVID vaccine. It has scuppered some bits that should work, but we can still access the whole. So when we use Earth nodal points and places that are of spiritual significance, because they have a different energy structure, we are able to sort of bypass a lot of that clamping down. And we have to if we think of energy, I always liken energy to like a ruler. It goes on forever. But our consciousness, let's say, is between 10 and 11 inches. That's the bounds of our consciousness. But other nature spirits and other consciousness can move up and down that ruler at will. When we access sort of nodal points, because of the shifts in the neurochemistry, the pineal gland to release DMT, that's when we are able to move outside of inch 10 and 11 and access these other forms of consciousness. So it's really important that we recognize that a spiritual practice has to have that kind of effect on us. A spiritual practice where we just sit and meditate is great, but the ancient spiritual practice were about stimulating neurochemistry to enable us, because we cannot have the same kind of experience, spiritual experience, without this release of DMT. You know, meditating and sitting quietly and writing your journal and all that, it's all very well. But until you've had a DMT experience, you cannot comprehend what that experience is like, to be able to actually see the universe differently and to be able to be really in touch with these consciousnesses. Is a very different experience.
Yes, and I just want to add one thing. I think a lot of the wanting them to be plugged in all the time to the internet, the net, you know, and these algorithms that are binding our brain passages to AI, artificial intelligence, you know, is trying to keep us in that box when we should be getting out, like you said, with nature. It's more expansive, you know, it's organic to us, and it stimulates that part of our other new pathways in our brain. So what say you, David?
Well, no, I endorse everything that Faye says, and in fact, I think Faye is a key holder. Key holders are people who actually hold the energy of the earth together, so that others may partake of that energy when they are ready. Now, the key holders are very important people. Well, we're all important. We all have our unique function here and our unique purpose. But yeah, I think Faye is a key holder, and that's a very sacred and celestial position to hold, because
most definitely
because of the importance of your relationship as a conduit for energy and explaining about the importance of that energy. So I just thought I'd throw that in. But with regard to me, I'm not like Faye at all. I don't feel and see the same that she does, because I'm not a key holder. I'm aware of these energies, and it's much more in a logical. I'm not particularly logical, but I don't like the use of the word intellectual. I'm much more intellectually, though, connected to what you're saying, and I can see it and feel it in that sense, but not to the same degree, the sort of sacred degree that you can. However, what I can talk to you about is how I came to be much more aware of my own consciousness and all the things that you're talking about, Faye, which is so important. If I'm not like you, how on earth did I manage to expand my consciousness? Well, I can tell you how I first started. I was a tennis pro once. And I was absolutely committed and totally focused on helping all the players who came to me to improve their performances. And the aim was to get somebody who was going to be absolutely amazing and win all these tournaments and be a Wimbledon champion, that sort of thing. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. However, I realized how difficult it was. So I started to ask myself questions: why this and why that, and why can't we do this? And when players would sometimes say, I can't play because I'm too tense, I'm too nervous, I then discovered that there were ways in which the body could help. And this took me on a journey. I realized, for example, that when people were very tense and they were being controlled by their own emotions, that they could jump up and down on the spot. All right. And you see tennis players doing that. They could improve their breathing patterns, deeper breathing, etc., slowing it down. And you see them doing that. They could tap their thymus gland, which is where the azure is, the seed atom. They could tap that to stimulate the energy flows through it, etc. There were all sorts of things that you could do to encourage an improved performance and an improved awareness of their ability to develop something. And through that, I managed to realize that, Dave, there's something else going on in here. So when I finished all my tennis proing, I started to investigate other things. And one of the things that made a big difference with me, and which is what Elizabeth asked, how we can make use of this expanding consciousness, is and it's exactly where Faye has just been explaining, I realized that I was one with everything. Now, that took me a long time to get there. Believe me, it really did. But when I realized that I was one with everything, that was a huge step for me. For example, I would then take my shoes and socks off and walk in the garden. And that had a huge effect on my physicality, believe it or not. And then holding and talking to trees. Now, of course, the people who lived near me and around me thought I had really finally lost it. And they couldn't, but I kept on. I carried on. And whenever they came up to me and said, okay, Dave, what's going on here? I would explain. I'd explain the relationship that I have with the earth. After all, do you have a relationship with the earth? Are you levitating all the time and not in contact with her? And then slowly they begin to realize that, in fact, oh, yeah, well, we do have a relationship. And then people start to ask themselves questions, not because you told them to, but because they started to realize certain things. Because that's what happened with me. I asked myself questions. Why this? Why that? Why can't I do this? Why can't I be this? And slowly the answers came. And of course, Faye, we know that the answers come from what you've just been saying, our higher selves.
Yep.
We get the energy and the data coming to us when we ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
amazing discussion, because basically that is the key. The key holder. The key is knowing we're all one. We're one with everything, and that goes even circumvents the deva, because that's really going into the deva of whatever, the spirit, the highest essence of the tree, of the bird, of the earth. And that is where our power is. And they want to keep us distracted, like talking about, what this political figure and what happened at this, the whatever, the Paris thing and all that external stuff. So we're paying our attention into this finite concept of the world, of the 3D reality, when if we can just collect ourselves and really tap into that inner power of knowing we are one, and as we get the frequency, the quantum, the juice back, we will be able to, our manifestation, and that's again the electromagnetic, the divine feminine, divine masculine, working in harmony to spark it out, that we will be returning maybe to our true state. Was manifestation was instantaneously, so we don't have to worry about these structures that are crumbling. We will be able to manifest these communities where love is the currency, where we're the creator, God and goddesses we were created to be, and manifest a whole world apart from the crumbling one of the finite earth, the 3D earth. So I think right there, that's where we're going, and I think the energies are going to support us in that. Any final words? That was my kind of rounding up of the of these two sessions. We're winding down 10 minutes, so any kind of roundup statement here?
Yeah, I think we kind of have to remember, we have to look at reality, in a broader sense. Like you say, we are connected to everything, and the world that we live in. I mean, I think we will need sort of societal structures for quite a while, because everybody moving into love and light almost relies on the fact that all soul is at that same stage of development. And of course, we're not. We're all at different stages. So there will always be some people who can be able to be in their highest version, and some people will be very much beginning that journey. So we'll always have different people at different stages of development as souls come around. But we have to look at reality. That you were talking about AI. You can put AI goggles on, and you can go into a whole new world, but actually you're not. You're wearing a pair of goggles. And we have to look at our reality like that. We think that is everything, but actually we're wearing a pair of goggles. We have been told that this is what reality is, and that I am separate from that tree, and which is separate from that rock. But when you go into the energy of something, it inevitably opens a door. So for instance, if I go, when I'm healing people, let's say I would look at the energy structure of a chakra, my consciousness goes into that chakra. That then leads me down this kaleidoscopic tunnel, which takes me to soul energy. But that soul energy then jumps me out into this vast space in which everything is. So one going into one energy field leads you to the next, and you come to this place, which is just gigantic and beyond comprehension. And you're no longer a consciousness, an individual consciousness. You're just part of it. So we are connected to everything, and we have to get a frame of a way of looking at the world that removes this degree of separation between everything. Because it is not, it is all energy, and you can talk to a tree, you can talk to a rock, you can talk to a bird, and this is the beauty of working with the spirit of the things, because they're all, the energy spirit is within this vast and multidimensional energetic reality, but we can tune on that little frequency that says, I need to shield everything else out because I can't cope with talking to everything. I can only cope as a human being with talking to this tree, or I then want to talk to a forest, or it's very hard to communicate with everything all at once, because ultimately we normally have some questions about how can I contribute to the because that's the only way we can contribute to a wonderful new future is through us. I can't do it through somebody else. I can't do it through a tree. I can only do it through me, because I am that autonomous being in the world. So inevitably we have conscious questions about, I have come with these soul values of whatever my soul values are. And I think that's really key, that people do understand their soul values, by the way, because once you understand what your soul values are, that informs the actions and the interests and the goals and things that you do in life. Once you understand those, then you take actions to embody those values. And that's how we give value to the world. And that's how we tread our soul's path. So for instance, if one of your values is joy, you're here to bring joy to the world. How you do that will be to a degree dependent on your personhood. So for somebody, bringing joy to the world might be creating art. For somebody else, it might be a stand-up comedian, because that's what their personality type is. Both of them bring joy, but you do so in a way that fits your natural capacity. So
we're all one, but we're all uniquely diverse.
We're all one, we're all uniquely different. That's the nature of the experience.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much, Faye. Can you tell us again how people can get in touch with you? I know you did last week, but could you tell again your website?
Yeah, you can just look for me on social media, Faye Semple, or go to www.fayesemple.com and you will find me there, willing and eager to talk to you.
Brilliant. I've enjoyed what you said so much. And Dave, could you wrap up for us? And I want to know when your book Beyond Biblical is coming out.
As soon as I manage to manifest the energy. No, it is on. It's honestly, it's on its way. It really is. But my problem was with that was I just discovered so many more things, like listening to people like Faye. I thought, well, I've got to include that. That's amazing. So
I know.
the trouble with me is that I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and you never stop learning. So basically,
that's my favorite saying. The more I learn, the more I realize I know nothing. Socrates. That's my motto. Well, it's been a joy having you, and of course, David will have you next week. And Faith, thank you so much. We'll have to have you back on. You have to promise you'll come back on, because
I will come back on with enthusiasm. Thank you very much for having me.
You have such what I call wise women words. You embody the wise woman, key holder embodiment. So, all right, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week with David Emery. Ciao for now. So, okay. Bye, Faye. I'm going to have to see you when I come to England. I know I'm going to be there. We'll have to get together. We'll have You guys aren't very far from each other. Are you back in Windsor now? I know you've been traveling. Are you in Windsor, David? David, are you in Windsor? You guys are pretty close to each other.
Yeah. Where are you, Faye?
I'm in Kenilworth, which is right in the Midlands, not far from
that's the Midlands. Yeah. Well, I'm near London now.
Yeah, you're down that way. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean it's not a great distance, except the traffic makes it a long
awful road.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
Lovely talkable. Yeah. Let's stay in touch. Do it again.
Okay, we will be in touch. You're one of my panel now. Ciao.
Take care then. Bye.
Bye. Okay. David, do you need? Oops, I just got rid of David. I didn't mean to get rid of him. Sorry, David. Do you need a short break?
Let me give you. Do you want me to change my shirt?
No. I do need a short break, because I've been doing this for 2 hours, and Kiki just ran outside, and I'm going to make sure she's not going to bark. I'll be right back. Okay. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been a real marathon here.
Is it hot there?
Oh, it's so hot. I'm inside in the air conditioning. It's so hot. So hot. So yeah, Dave, I record this because I've been so hijacked with everything I do. But it's really, the thrust of it is a podcast that goes out to all the podcast platforms and Voice America Empowerment Channel. So, but I'm just running a live stream because last week I couldn't get on YouTube. I couldn't get on Facebook, and thank God Voice America had recorded it. So it was terrible.
Why can't you get on those?
What do you think?
Okay, right. Okay, I just wondered. Yeah.
The message of last week was that the women are going to give birth to the new earth. I've never had a session more hijacked than any broadcast I've ever done.
Really? So it's still happening.
Oh, it's happening. They just don't want people to, they don't want people reminding women how powerful they are.
How weird. That's incredible. Okay, well, thank you for telling me that, because so
it's mostly a podcast. It's not like, what the other places where you see the video. It goes, and we have about 25,000 people that listen to it through the Voice America syndication on Amazon, on Apple Play, on all the podcast formats.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I just do it. I send it to Rumble now, hopefully YouTube and Facebook on the video. But that's just to make sure I get it, because this part is recorded and I have to upload it to them. Okay, this next session I wanted to talk about really bringing it back to the hero journey. And let me go ahead and start, okay? And then we'll just take it from there. Okay. Hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome back. We have the great David Emery with us again, and I am so thrilled to have him. He's in hot demand everywhere. So I'm just so fortunate that we have him last week and this week. And if you don't know him, I did a short introduction with him last week, since he's already been here so many times. He's really very well schooled in colonic science and the creation mechanics of our multiverse, and has a really amazing talent at taking these complex, high-minded metaphysical concepts such as the crystal river fail-safe, the Nomi seed, and the restoration of our time matrix, and breaking it down in a way that people can really understand it. So he's got if you Google him, David Emery, he has a whole lot of, he's coming out of the spiritual closet, and he's really stepping out there and explaining this to people. And I'm really grateful, because I've studied this for so many years, but I just didn't have the frequency, that the genetic accretion enough to understand it. I would read the Voyagers, I would listen to KDL3, tapes for Mashiana Dean forever and not get it. And it was because people like him took me by the hand and explained it. And now I'm able to understand it finally. But anyway, he was born in Ireland shortly after Second World War II. So he has this long perspective on our Earth's brief history. And he moved to England at the age of 7. He's written a number of children's books. And I'm really excited and nudging him to get out his book that's forthcoming. It's going to be brilliant. I'm sure some of your Facebook posts they're so powerful what you post on Facebook, and he's there. He's just come on Facebook. are going to be part of this book. But like you said, you keep thinking of things to add to it, but it's called Beyond Biblical, David Emery. So we're all waiting with bated breath. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about how we're in this huge major shift. Last week we were with Faye Simple. We talked about a lot of the ley lines and the energetic template of our planet. And I really want to talk about this time of how, this influx of triggered by the fail safe of 2011, actually August 8/8, we're having an anniversary of that, and all the things that are happening mechanically from the Nomi seed, silver seed wave that's moving throughout our Earth and many other planets, with the Crystal River failsafe that's being hosted, that's hosting us in aligning our time matrix to the Crystalla spiral of life. And just the influx of energy from the photonic belt that's just coming in. And I think everyone's feeling it, because right now we've been in the Lionsgate corridor, and, the energy is just, for me, every day it's augmenting. So how is this going to affect things? As we come back online, as our Earth's grid systems come back online, the stargates come back online, the halls of Amenti, the Ark of the Covenant, all these things are coming back online. I think a lot of our ancient Tartarian technology is going to come back online. And how can we rewrite our life story as the heroic version of ourselves to really attune to these ascending frequencies? That's all.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you for that. It'll only take me 30 seconds, and then we can go and have coffee.
You're so much
well, of
fun.
course, it is. Cosmic science and how the structure of the universe works is very complicated. Well, you can imagine that it must be. These energy flows that are passing through all of our grids are frequency sectors within us. They are very, very powerful, and they can't be stopped now. And of course, we know that many of us know the history behind all of this and why a lot of these energies were being prevented from reaching us. But now, of course, since Elizabeth said, 2011, when things got really very difficult, since then, of course, a fail-safe has been operative. It's been enacted. And it was a fail-safe which actually took many people by surprise, didn't know that it existed, in fact. There have been many fail-safes operative in the past, but this one was particularly extraordinary. And the reason why it was extraordinary is because, in fact, the whole of our particular local universe, and that includes many universes, not just ours, all connected, they were all threatened. And Earth, being a very important connecting gate for the whole of our time matrix, the whole of our 12 dimensions within our matter matrix, being such an important connector gate, meant that Earth really was pivotal in this particular drama. And so when the failsafe, the Crystal Bridge Passage failsafe, the Uridar awakening, was manifested into the grids of Earth, it couldn't be stopped. It was a game changer. And when I say the word game, it sounds a little bit blasé and not important. But we have been in the midst of a drama or a game for millions of years. And finally, the game changer moment came when the Nomi seed code was activated within Earth's grids, because she holds that encryption, and she always did. As I say, I certainly didn't know about that. So it was a shock and an amazing experience when I discovered that this was true. But this has been going on for a long time now, well, 7 or 8 years now. It's really been activating. And there are many people much better placed to give the full details of what is a very complex cosmic science. And I think if I may mention Ian Banks and his Nomi code.
Ian Parks and his Nomi fail-safe
yes.
beginners, and it has been so helpful to me. They've answered so many questions, and it's a collective of people who really care about truth seekers, and I've learned so much. And I just want to share my story because I think a lot of people may have the same story. A lot of people, I feel like, very powerful, very evolved souls, highly encrypted souls, have been hidden in and out of time and in a sleep state for their own protection. I think now they're starting to wake up because things are getting to the point where their mission is kicking in. But one of the things I've realized too is, well, I didn't understand it for a long time. I mean, I started studying this back about 8 years ago, but like I said in my last week's episode, I just didn't have the genetics to really comprehend it. And thank you for stepping forward and explaining it. And we all have different perspectives, and it's volumes and volumes of material. But I'm really passionate about getting this material out because I feel like it's our birthright, because it should have been in the Bible. It's something we were supposed to have, for this time we're in. We were supposed to know all this. So, and I hope more people from the colonic science communities, step forward. We might make mistakes. I know I've made mistakes in the book, and we're remembering our past, and sometimes we have to go back over because there's volumes and volumes of material. I didn't even know about the freedom teachings, which was the earlier work. And we're talking about Ashiana Dean, and her website is arias.com. It's all there. You can find it. And she wrote the book Voyagers 1 and 2, so you can Google that. But and she still is ongoing with working with what's going on now in the fail-safe program. But I also got totally lost because I didn't have the freedom teachings. And I would sit there during these it started in 2015, these past, it's almost 10 years, just listening to the videos and going, it was like a nursery school person being in a PhD course. And I was really upset, because I was just frustrated because I didn't have I didn't have it. I didn't have the genetics. And so, but I kept trying to learn it. And then I finally found the freedom teachings, thanks to so many people I got on Facebook just last year with my name, and found so many people in the community who have shared so much information. In fact, I just got all of the information finally, or I think almost all. And I listened to about 3 or 4 videos a day. And now I can go to the KDL3, the latest stuff, and I understand. But I didn't know what a part of K, part of chi, part of cum, a kelon was. I didn't know any of the structure. And I was trying to understand this real advanced stuff. So just for those who are just tuning in or who are in the communities, anyone that steps forward, I really appreciate you. We're not perfect. We all don't know everything. Like I said before, the more I learn, the more I realize I know nothing. But thank you, David, for coming forward and sharing this and sharing it with people who are just awakening to this, because I think everyone needs to know that. Right. I wanted to put that in.
No, I think you were quite right. And you said something very, very astute there. And that is that people make mistakes. Well, I've made lots of mistakes, especially in my writings and when I speak. But that's not important. You can always correct a mistake, okay, as you get more data coming in. What really matters, and I've said this before, is your direction of travel. It's where you're going. It's where your expansion of consciousness is taking you. So you can cover any number of errors if they're made in good faith and you know where you're going. And that is, you know that you are part of everything, and you know that you are a unique, ineffable aspect of God's source yourself. That's the direction of travel that really matters. And that's why, even if sometimes we can disagree with people who are on the same journey, it doesn't matter, because we're all part of the same tribe. We're all walking together, hand in hand, often in the same direction towards home. And home is who we truly are. It's our real identity. And so that's the first thing I would say. And with regard to the complexity of the information, well, I found it just as complex and difficult to understand. In fact, when I first started, I started looking at all of this material around about 15 years ago. And in fact, I couldn't understand some of the graphs and the diagrams. It was just way beyond me. But I did connect with one thing, because this is who I was. I connected with the history. It was the history that brought me into the Voyagers and into the Keylontic science. And slowly, as I expanded my awareness of self and the universe, I began to understand more and more about how the whole thing is put together. And in fact, I can tell you that our natural state is to know all this instinctively. It is in our frequency fields. Long, long ago, we knew all of this instinctively. It was a part of us. All right. I mean, we would be able to ascend in one lifetime all the 12 dimensions of this matter universe. We could do that because we knew everything. We knew that we were part of everything. We knew that, oscillation and vibration were important, electromagnetism, etc. We may not have used those words, but we knew how everything fitted everything else together as a unified, seamless construct, and that we were a unique aspect of it. And within it all was pure consciousness, the God source. And we knew all that. So we couldn't be fazed by complexity because it was a part of us. So the story of our drama that we have lived through, all of us, Elizabeth and I and many, many others, and all of you who are listening, the drama that we have lived through, time out of mind, lifetime after lifetime, has been our slow recovery of knowing who we are, and all of this complex detail which was taken away from us and we were separated from, so that we forgot it. And now it's all coming back, and together, all of us working hand in hand to make sure that we understand once again the dynamics of who we are, the celestial dynamics of who we are. Through all of this, what was once complex detail, it is now becoming clearer to us. And we may still make mistakes, but that doesn't matter, because as I said, it's our direction of travel, everyone. It's where we're going together as a unified tribe, if you like. And that's really where I feel that that many of us, including myself, are waking up to who we are. It's a question of identity. And the Nomi code, fail-safe, etc., and the Crystal Bridge passage, and all of these wonderful things that are happening now, were designed long, long ago. They were part of the original divine design, so that if we were needed, we needed that sudden fail-safe, it would be there. And of course, as Elizabeth said at the start of the program, yes, we need that, and it has arrived, and we are on our way.
And that it's really strange, because with the influx of all this energy from the Lionsgate, it's like, I understand. It's like all these blurry puzzle pieces are like all coming together, and I can see the puzzle. And I finally realized that, and thanks for people sending me this information, that the Nomi seed is encrypted in what I call infinite God source, or the creation, the eternal creation, the very fabric of all creation. And so it was just activated. So it's like we've been having all this drama going on external creation, us against them and blah, 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 this maneuver, that maneuver. But, and I was on another talk show, and she said, but why is, it was Beyond the Veil, and Bet, the host, said, why is the finite more powerful? And I said, the finite is not more powerful. Of course, infinite is all that is, ever has been. And they had that card to play, which is eternal, just to restore everything to the proper structure. And we've been so far off, we haven't even realized it. And that's the beauty of for me, when I learn these things, it sparks memories and opens pathways and remembrances of these alternative lifetimes or alternative identities, which I am now incorporating into the now moment on my journey of the hero, my heroic self, the one that is ascending. So fascinating time. But I want to say one more thing I didn't. It's I've also just realized the whole thing began way outside of our time matrix in, the Borgia, the Borgia time matrix, and with the victimizer. And then when I heard that, it was like, well, first of all, I felt a huge amount of compassion. I'd always seen the Borg kind of like Star Trek, the assimilation, but apparently they lost their lower densities to space dust, and it was grief. They were grief stricken, and I can really identify with that, because losing someone you love is probably the biggest, hardest lesson that Christic beings who are so loving have to feel. And then they wanted to find out, how did they lose them? Why did they lose them? And try to correct it. And then they created this victimizer, where they would play the victim, play the victimizer, play the victim. And apparently the ones who had been didn't want to do victim anymore, and they broke out. And that's the infection that came into our whole time matrix and has spread throughout. And I think all these high-minded, extremely expansive concepts always, like faced it in the last session, come to you. And where are we still? And I still have to ask myself question. Where, in my book, it's all about rewriting your life story to the heroic you. So where am I? I'll ask myself, where am I, Elizabeth Monroy, still playing victim or martyr? And it's so ingrained in our way of being, this victimizer program. It keeps us in that loop. So any comments on that?
Well, no, you're absolutely right, and the story itself is, of course, astonishing. If you bought a ticket to a theatre show that had that on the stage, you would be cowering behind the seats, because some of the stuff that's happened has been amazing. And that Boran Thasala experience in that time matrix 450 billion years ago just gives you an idea of quite how long this astonishing victimizer blame game drama has been going on, and how you are so right, Elizabeth. It infected everything. It was like a plague, a plague of attitude that eventually enveloped so many of the universes, and of course ours as well. And all that you say about the finite and the experiences, etc., and the hurt and the difficulty, you're so perfectly right. However, now we're in the situation, because of the failsafe activation, and also because we've had our DNA strands uprated. I don't mean clones and AI have; they haven't. I'm talking about you and I, people listening here to us. We have had our DNA strands uprated from the original 12. Some of us have got 48 now, and they're slowly assembling and being activated. And when that happens, you can transmute yourself into other universes. Of course, we can't do that, and I can't do that now, but I know that it is happening, because remember, I mentioned the direction of travel that we are on. And a lot of things have happened to us internally. For example, we carry an aspect of this Nomi code encryption within us. And as all of these developments, these frequency increases and expansions are happening, they do a number of different things to us. And one of them is we are able to, through specific vapor essences, which are released as we expand our consciousness. And I'm making this very, very simple for us all here, because I'm cutting it out a lot of complexity. But those vapor essences create what is known as illumined essence. Illumined meaning illuminated. Illumined essence, which we breathe in and out once it has arrived within our frequency fields. And what do as angelics? We breathe this illumined essence in and out, and the rest of the life field on planet Earth may breathe it too, through us. We are an interface point between the energies of the failsafe and the expanding energies of the life field. So you can see how important we are. We're not just an addendum onto the evolutionary scale here. We are pivotal. And as we expand our consciousness, everyone, we become more pivotal. And we can do our job wonderfully if we have two things: absolute love and awareness of unity, that we are all together as one. And do I say that that can be achieved easily? No, it's taken me all my life, and I'm approaching 80. And but that's what we can do, because we are ineffable beings, and we have the choice and the opportunity to do all of this right now.
Wow, so powerful words, such powerful words, and so well said. You just went to the heart of it. And this broadcast isn't for everyone, but if you're tuning in, this means obviously you're very highly encrypted. And I know for many of you who are listening to our words, well, hopefully they're awakening you to how powerful and how infinite you are. And how precious you are, but also it's been tough. It's been tough for all of us. It's been a tough journey. It's been very much a heroic journey, and from what I understand now, that failsafe, it had to get really, really bad to lower itself to the lowest density for failsafe to kick in. But now that it's kicked in, I mean, it's just amazing because we don't have to do the regular Adachi cycle unless we want to. I mean, we have like a straight shot out back to, and many of us aren't even from this time matrix. I know I'm not from this time matrix. When the more I started to wake up, many of us are from Aquinos, the hosting Crystal River. And I know, many of us are longing to go home, but we have a very important job here. So we have to stay grounded in what we're supposed to do just by living and being and breathing. But, we also are by waiting so long, we are also able to get that straight shot back home whenever the timing, the divine time is correct. Am I understanding that correctly? Anything to add to that?
Well, I think so. Yeah, for sure. As I say, there are many people way more qualified than myself to talk about the dynamic details of this. But what I can say is that we're definitely in a very particular and impressive and ineffable position here right now because of this failsafe code. And of course, when you mention that you're not from this time matrix, you make me smile, Elizabeth, because I know that. I can feel that, and I felt that from the very first moment when we connected. And I know a lot of people who are from the Andromeda fields, and of course, there's so many different places we've come from, and we're here now together as one, and that's not an accident. There are no accidents in the cosmic design, so we're here for a purpose. And in fact, if I can just add something to that, there are many, and this is quite interesting, there are many angelic humans here on Earth who actually come from another species line. Cetaceans, that's whales and dolphins. Yes, they're here as humans. All right. There are many felines from a feline species line. And they weren't especially born into our particular line originally, long ago. But they've come into our line as angelic humans. And you may ask, well, why? Well, that's because through our line, they can recover their codes, their original codes. And as Elizabeth said, because of that, they can go home. They can go home as they originally were. So they're using our angelic genome and our angelic opportunities here as angelic humans to be able to recover their codes and find out again who they are, their identity, and go home just as we're going home. So we are facilitating so many different species lines that had lost their codes or couldn't find them. And we are all together, as I say, together as one, helping us all to go together hand in hand back home. And it's a really remarkable story. And it is no accident that you are here now listening to this as a part of that heroic pathway back home.
That's fascinating. We're going to take just a short break and we'll be right back. And welcome back. Elizabeth Monroe here with the amazing, always brilliant, illuminating, earth-shattering awarenesses just being in your presence, David. I just love listening to you. It's just something about, just I feel your energy coming through the screen here. But it's very stimulating. And I think for the Christics communities, I know some of you know each other because you've done work for many years, and many of us who came in later, just it's very nice to be have these kind of conversations for me, because they really stimulate and open up pathways and memories. So, and if you're just tuning in, like I said, I've had people who are accountants that have sent me emails, and they're like, I don't understand, this white lion is like following me around. What does this mean? They have you might not know who you are, but just wait 5 minutes, because you will. and don't, you're not going crazy. I'm sure we've all had that feeling. You're not going crazy. You're becoming sane. And and I think Faye mentioned it too, because you may start seeing things, seeing energy, or experiencing your reality shifting, in a surreal way, or start having flashes and memories of other lifetimes when you visit places. But that's the normal. You're just catching up to who you truly are. And I want to say that because I know a lot of people are feeling alone now, because they're kind of no longer resonating with the communities and the people they have been with in the 3D reality. And I've been there. I'm sure you haven't you, David, had that experience when you started to wake up?
Oh, for sure, yes. I think a lot of us actually have been, you mentioned this earlier, a lot of us have been protected. A lot of us carry frequency, which can be seen as a marker. For example, I mean, I'm not talking about myself here, but I do know people who have who carry such a high frequency of expanded awareness of self. And so they can shift their particle base almost, not totally, but almost completely, so that they actually send a light beam up into the sky, and this light beam can be seen, literally for much more than miles. It's a very significant indicator of the energy that's being projected. And so if you've been like that in the past, it may well be that you've been protected. So what happens? What is a good way to protect people? Well, one is to get them to be totally focused on the 3D world. If you're focused on the 3D world, and I've been in my past, then a lot of these frequencies, they're still there, they're bubbling underneath, but they aren't released. So they remain within you, and they don't cast a light beam up into the sky. So you aren't seen then as a high frequency individual. Now, I know there's a lot of people, and I suspect, Elizabeth, that you were one of these people.
Well, I just want to say, where I move around the planet a lot. I usually move, and then I'm like stationed in that place for a year, or I've actually been here for 5 years. But whenever I move, I'm so excited when I get there, because the skies are clear, and the weather's great. And then about a few months after I've been there and working the energies, the chemtrails start with X marks the spot right over me. And I'm like, oh, come on. And then the next thing you know, they're just, because the AI can detect the frequency, and so that when you raise the frequency in your area, which is part of our jobs, then they just go there, and then they start, trying to lower the frequency. It's just part of their job. But I feel like that is about to shift. I feel like we're just tipping over to such a high frequency that their little chemtrails and their silly little 5G towers they're just not going to have the ability to hold. It's like holding back a dam or something. It's just not going to happen. That's
I
why.
agree. Yeah, I agree with you. You're totally right. I mean, there's more and more of us and other beings too. I mean, because we affect, our frequency affects much of the life field. And I know Faye was talking about that, particularly pets. I mean, dogs and cats can pick up the frequency and absorb them. I'm told that dogs do, and they reflect that back to you. And cats are very, very good in acquiring healing frequencies and projecting them back through their purring. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but as you expand all of the frequencies and more angelics are remembering who they are and feeling these things, I mean, yes, the AI is going to be overworked. It's going to go red hot and then collapse because there's too much resonance in the frequency fields now from everywhere. It's all happening. And this is nothing but good news for us together as a collective. So you're quite right about that. And I certainly have, when I first met you, I recognized that you were a real firework of high energy, high energy frequency. You definitely still are.
I guess that's good and bad because it's really tough traveling around the world. It's like, she's out of her little, because I just shield my home area so much, and where I live, it's nice energy. And when I am gonna have to travel when I get on a plane or something, it's like, we got her for a while. It's in the frequencies, I'm so sensitive to them, but I'm really hoping that's gonna end because I'd like to get out and travel more and not have to always be so protective because it's tough, and I'm very outspoken, and I just can't douse my light. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I try. I'm like, I'm just a normal person going through the metal detectors or something. And then I have Kiki with me, and we together we hold frequencies, so they can't attack me, but they usually always attack her. She's not a service dog or something. So it's tough, and I know people can relate to me, especially women. I think women, we've been, we have a lot of implants that carried in our cellular structure from lifetime to lifetime from all the trauma, being burnt and stoned and all the stuff that's happened to us. And I feel them now releasing with these energies coming in, but a lot of distortions and implants in my etheric bodies. And I think that's part of I've just been getting so many signs about the female has been so overburdened because of that, her magnetic. You talked about that when we did our inner divine female and inner divine masculine podcast. But I feel like because we're so powerful, we've just had so many implants put across us. Literally, I had something that was removed when they pulled my tooth, and my whole accidental right side opened up. And so I think a lot of people are clearing the ascension symptoms of the lower frequencies. Do you want to talk about that? Because I think it's very timely with this Lionsgate.
Well, I mean, just listening to you there about the release of certain of these implants, and some of them are seals, SEALS, which were put in. Now, some seals are natural. They're dimensional lock seals, so that we don't suddenly our mental capacities don't suddenly flip into another dimension when we're not actually physically ready for that. So there are natural seals within us, but there've been quite a few unnatural seals which are put in. They were known as Jehovian seals, and they were particularly unpleasant things. And so I think it's just wonderful, Elizabeth, for you to tell me there how you had one of them released and the effect that it had. That's astounding, and I resonate totally with that. It's
well,
amazing.
I want to share it because I think a lot of women are coming online now, and I know for me, I'll go through periods of literally bliss. I'll just say I am so blissed out. I just humming. I wake up in the morning and it's just infinite source, and I'm just humming. And I've been there a lot, and a lot of energy. But then, and I've had two of the huge ones just started in June, and I'm just getting over it like now. But for about 2 months there, just like tired, and all the detoxing, all these processing, a lot of stuff. So that's part of I just want to say that's part of the nitty gritty of the ascension. And I think it's an ongoing. Unfortunately, I keep thinking I want to arrive, but we're still not we still got a lot of the carbon-based right mechanics that have to be upgraded into our crystalline structure. But it's kind of goes in waves. And I just tell myself when I feel really, 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 really bad, I say, that's good, because I'm going to feel great as soon as I get out of all the stuff out of me. So, have you had those experiences yourself, or
Not like you have. No,
it's
not
a
at
female
all.
thing?
No, exactly. But honestly, I mean, we have been affected by so many artificial etheric things that you're talking about. That's something that's not in the 3D aspect, in the 4D aspect of your own body self. And one of them, for example, is the caduceus. The caduceus.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, the
Yes.
caduceus is, those of you who are listening, it's Asclepius or Hermes, the god of healing, and it's two snakes twining around a central column. And
Which is the symbol of medicine nowadays.
Well, there you go. You see, it's the symbol of medicine. That just shows you how controlling these entities have been over us. So they set it etherically into our physical body. It runs from just about here, your jawline, down your central column, which is the hara line, which is where all our energies circulate through and up and down, and that has been placed in there, and we've been informed that is an aspect of healing, but in fact it's not. It's an aspect of distorting the energetic flows through us. It's been very, very powerful for many thousands of years. Now, when that gets released, of course, you're going to have a physiological response. And so that's what Elizabeth was talking about, how, something good happens, you lose something, a seal is taken out, and you can go through a period of where, your body is trying to recover.
But you feel like you're dying in the process. You do.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, okay. So you're perfectly right. So because the physical body has become entrained to believing that this etheric presence is natural. And there are lots of them, actually. The vagus nerve is another one. You can't take that out, by the way, at the moment. Later we will be able to, but the vagus nerve is not a natural, organic, original aspect of our physiognomy. So there's, oh goodness, we got our false navel. Our navel's in the wrong place, and that was to affect the chakra energies up and down that central line. So there's all sorts of very strange things have been done to us, and what you're going to find is that as these frequencies expand, and they are exponentially now, every 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, and so on, these are expanding, as I say, exponentially, and these frequencies will shift the etheric distortions amongst all of us, and it's going to be, you're going to notice the difference. It's going to be wonderful.
It's wonderful, but I do have to prepare you. It can be difficult, and I'm so glad I'm talking to you, because I know now, and I know the Cadus was a big thing because Peter was a doctor, my twin soul. So we were always in the medical communities, and I write about it in the book that it was very much part. It's wreaked havoc on my life, and I'm pretty sure that's a part of what was releasing, because I could feel it from my jaw, and I felt it all wound around my spinal column down into my root chakra, and it's still coming out, but I'm feeling, and a lot of also I've been doing a lot of parasitic cleanses and stuff. I mean, I'm just saying this because a lot of people are going through that, and the vagus nerve I'm always working with. But I think of the movie, if anyone's seen Stargate, they take these serpents and they put them right back in the spine, and they possess these humans, the human on that planet, and then they become gods, because the parasite is that serpent type thing that winds around. It's the vagus nerve. And then what was the other thing you said too about another impact?
The
and I've been looking at my belly button, and it's like, look, it's shifting. It's like I'm feeling like I'm, it's so strange. It's like a, rosemary bacon. What's coming up? But my belly button is like moving. It's like it's
Yeah,
on the other
actually,
side of
yeah,
me.
you're not alone because mine has too, definitely.
So,
Yeah.
well, good. I'm
Um,
glad we're sharing this because I think it's important people hear this, because when I hear people talk like that, it's like, oh my God, that's happening. And sometimes we're not allowed to even think like that, but it's going to be good, right?
Oh no, it's definitely going to be good. I mean, I said that I didn't have some of the experiences that you've had, and that's true. But I mean, for example, I have a pretty clean physical life in what I eat and drink, etc. And I keep fit, and so I do what they would call the right things. But I remember 4 months ago, I suddenly developed a very sore throat. It came on within 20 minutes. And for the next 8 days, I was in a bad state. And I don't know where it came from because I wasn't with anyone. I was just with myself. I hadn't been out anywhere. I hadn't consorted with groups of people. It just came in, hit me. And for 8 days, I was in a very difficult position with breathing, coughing, feeling really lousy, etc. And then suddenly it disappeared. And I believe
How long ago was that? 3 months
that was
ago?
about 4 months ago.
See, and right after that was when you just started to really come out and start speaking more, right?
Actually, that's true. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Well, the same thing happened to me right before I started this talk show. I have all and I get adjustments and my whole throat and this whole area. And that's part of I think the miasma clearing that has kept it blocked, and probably for our safety too, but now you're like, you're telling yourself it's okay. I can come out now. Come out. And you're clearing all those slower frequencies that kept it blocked. I had the same experience. It's amazing. So I didn't know the conversation would go this way, but I think it's very helpful that it's always an eternal journey, and do you think we'll get there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good phrase, the eternal journey. That's quite a lyrical phrase as well. It has a nice ring to it, as well as being true. It has been what seems like an eternal journey, but in fact, our eternal journey really is, most of it's an illusion. As Faye was stating, Faye Simple was stating the other day, we are living in an illusion. This is not the reality. The original reality that we really exist in is the original reality that we are. That's our true identity as God source. And we chose to make a trip here into the worlds of illusion. Now, I know that when some of the things that you've experienced, all of you, and me and Elizabeth, when they happen, it doesn't seem like an illusion to you or to me. It feels like really real. And that's the whole point about it. It's sort of like, and if I can just use this as an analogy, it's sort of like in drama, when you buy the theatre ticket, you go into the theatre and the lights go down and the stage curtain opens and you get ready for the performance. Now, you can't enjoy that unless you do something. And what you do is you suspend your disbelief. So, for example, if I'm watching, shall we say, Matt Damon on the TV or on the stage, all right? Now, I like Matt Damon. I think he's a great actor, okay? And I like his films. But if I'm sitting there all the time thinking, well, Matt Damon was in The Bourne Identity. Matt Damon was in The Bourne Identity. He's in other films, yeah. He lives in America, yeah. He eats beans for breakfast. And if I'm saying that, I can't suspend my disbelief, which means I cannot become a part of the drama. So what do we do when we come into the theatre? The eternal journey of this theatre show, this drama in which we chose to be a part of, we have to suspend our disbelief. And once we suspend our disbelief, we become a part of the drama. In fact, the drama is us, and we are the drama. And so that's what we've been doing. So what are we doing now then? We're waking up, or
Exactly.
or
You
with
you just said that, yes, that's the cure, that you just told us the cure within what we did, because when we lowered our frequency, we bought the ticket and suspended our disbelief. But and for me personally, I call it the infinite, because we have a part of ourselves in infinite eternal creation that's still there outside of this time matrix. And for me, my cure is to stop identifying with my finite selves and go back always. And that might be going into the void through meditation, helps me a lot, or just disengaging and trying to identify more with that part of myself before I entered this time matrix and the whole dramas began. And quite frankly, I'm kind of longing for like too much drama. I think that we're getting it's in our face. It's making us like sick. Some of us just like looking at all the craziness that's going on there. We talked about that before at the Olympics and the elections and all that. And I think that's part of the process of just dropping it. So we no longer hold on to the finite attachments, and we can surrender. And that's the key. You really have to always surrender to infinite God source, because that's the real you, that part of you inside of you that's infinite, that eternal creation that is still, that's always there, always will be, outside of time, outside of trauma, outside of this time matrix.
Yeah, I agree with you, and you reminded me there with the use of the word attachment is such a good word. I know that many of the wisest Tibetan monks used to say, when you're dealing with the world, you have to be attached, but what you do to remember who you are is you involve disengaged attachment. So you're attached, but you're disengaged from the attachment.
Yeah, I was always taught be in it and not of it. That's what my spiritual teacher.
Exactly.
And
that of course is not easy to do.
I spend a lot of time by myself, because I can get really, I really just completely live, like behind gates, in this beautiful energy that I've manifested. And the thing that's nice about Italy is that you can just go out and there's always a party or something going on, so you can like have interaction, and then you just leave it behind and come back up here. So, I mean, it's been so hot though. I haven't even been able to go out. So it's been a very internal month, but it's a powerful time on the planet. And we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to let you go here. But when is your book coming out, David? I really want to read it.
Well, I had planned for it to be able to sort of send it to people sometime in October.
Oh, that's
because
brilliant.
we were going to go on a cruise together, weren't we?
Yeah. We will when the timing's right. It was not right. And I looked again today and revisited the last KDL. A lot of those places, are on those cruises, and they're opening up now, in terms of Q sites and stargates and things like that. I have a problem. I see things, but my timing isn't, because there's no time. So I get the timing confused. And sometimes I'm way ahead of myself. In fact, I always am. 10 years usually.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to get the book out for that cruise, and I was going to give you a copy there. I was even going to sign it for you. Thank you. So anyway, the cruise got cancelled for one reason or another, and so we're just waiting a little bit longer.
Yeah, things are unfolding, and I've decided not to make any plans right now in this August, because the energy is so intense. I feel like things are just kind of throwing up in the air, so they can come down in a whole new divine way. So yeah. And David, how can people? I know you're on Facebook. How else can people, find out, keep track of you, Google you? You have so many talk shows out there you've been a part of. So how else can?
Well, now I have to confess that I'm simply not the guru of the airwaves that you are. You know so much about about digital technology, and I'm actually way behind you. I'm in another universe, so I'm learning all of this. I can't even tell you what my Facebook page is. It's got my name on it.
Well,
And
David Emery, Emery, David Emery. But Facebook, I've been terminated from Facebook so many times. I don't put a lot of stock in there. But this podcast will be on my website, www.infinitehuman.com, and there's a lot other that we've done with David. It's all on my website. So
I do actually have a website.
You do? That's what I didn't want to make you feel bad for not having one.
Well,
what is it?
Look, you won't be able to get on it yet because it hasn't been sort of like released, as it were, but it's called Soul Matrix History.
What's it called?
Soul Matrix History.
Oh, I love it. Okay. www.soulmatrixhistory.com. Is it com? Do you use com?
I believe so, yeah. But it'll look, I'll let everybody know very shortly.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so wonderful. Thank you so much, David. I just I feel so full after talking to you. Really such a highlight for me.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Elizabeth. Your energy is unique and it covers the globe. And and if ever I look out on a dark night, I can look over towards Italy and I can see the fireworks on display.
Well, I have a feeling I'm going to be coming to UK before long, so I'm hopefully we'll meet in the physical. We'll see. Que sera, sera. What will happen? What will be, will be. So
that would be wonderful. I've always remembered that song.
Yeah. Que sera, sera. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Speak to you soon.
Okay. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Ciao, everyone. Over and out.